light of the fact that a few members in this room will not be officially joining us at many more meetings after tonight, I'd like to ask Dr. Cardinelli to lead us in the pledge. The last meeting with us.
Please stand and let's celebrate the Pledge of Allegiance to our country flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, everybody, please note this is Dr. Cardinelli's last meeting with us, sitting up here at the front. We'll see how he does and give him a grade at the final.
And he'll be back every week, every 2 weeks and be with us.
I'm also going to announce that the board meeting is audio taped and may be video recorded and streamed to the internet or posted on the internet for viewing. And then it is that time of year where at the end of the year we do have a few little bits of paperwork to take care of regarding some of our students, and so we do have a report on a closed session. On this date, June 28, 2011, the board reviewed a request for a stipulated expulsion concerning student case number 1011-13, and we will now take action on that request. It is a recommendation of the Administrative Review Committee that the student be expelled from all schools and programs of the district for the spring semester of the 2010-11 school year, which ended June 17, 2011, and the fall semester of the 2011-12 school year, which ends January 27, 2012. The board finds that the student has violated Ed Code 48915C and 48900B. Readmission to the district at the end of the expulsion period will be contingent upon satisfactory completion of the rehabilitation plan pursuant to California Education Code 48916. The student may apply for readmission at the end of the expulsion order. Do I have a motion to approve the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Review Committee?
I so move.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second? Second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? 5-0 then, and this concludes action on this matter. We also have several kids who worked hard in their time period away from us that we are now going to take some action to readmit them. It is moved that pursuant to California Education Code Section 48916, that student 1011-03, 1011-04, 1011-05, 1011-06, 1011-07, 1011-08, 1011-09, 1011, and 1011-11 be readmitted to the schools of the Fullerton School District, having satisfied the conditions of the rehabilitation plan developed by the district at the time of the expulsions. Students are eligible for Students are eligible for readmission on or after June 28, 2011. Is there a motion?
I so move. It's a pleasure to see how hard these students work to complete their plan and to oversee the requests made of them for volunteer hours.
That's very true. Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0. And let's hope they continue to show that improvement in the next few years of their schooling. It is moved that pursuant to California Education Code Section 48916, the readmission for students 11-01 and 11-02 to the schools of the Fullerton School District be denied. The board finds that the students have not met the conditions of the rehabilitation plan developed at the time of the expulsion, and or the student continues to pose a danger to campus safety or to other students or employees of the district. The board has determined that the student shall continue to receive services at the Access program. The student may apply for readmission to the schools of the district or to the high school district upon completion of his or her rehabilitation plan. Is there a motion to accept this? Is there a second?
I second that with sadness that they were unable to meet their commitment.
And hopefully the Access program will continue to help them on their road to a stronger educational program. All in favor of this motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Okay, then we also took action on a new employee in light of Dr. Cardinelli moving on to the next phase of his life and some other people leaving in his department. We have a new person coming into business services. like to announce it, or?
I can do that. We have a new Director of Business Services by the name of Stephen Miller. He comes to us having been a business manager, a director of business, a fiscal director, and an assistant superintendent. And actually, he retired for a year, found out that he didn't want to continue to travel for the rest of his life, and decided not to come back to work. So he is, will be he will start effective immediately, and we're pleased to have him as a part of our team. He will work directly with Susan Noon, who we introduced a few weeks ago as our new assistant superintendent of business services, who is here, and we're still waiting for your husband, correct?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. It's not a problem. We know what the freeways are like. So anyway, we're pleased to have Steve Miller be a part of our team. And the board took action in closed session on a vote of 5-0 to approve that. Yeah, we'll go over the personnel.
And what lovely timing. Now.
Did you have a few words you'd like to say? Few short notes.
Wait, we can move, yeah, we'll go ahead and, you do a part of your report? Okay. Oh, wait, give him a moment. At this point then, I have no public comment slips, so the next item on our agenda is the Laptops for Learning Program Evaluation presentation. So take it away.
Ted Lyon, research team.
That's good to hear.
Oh.
Thank you very much. So we have a team here from Cal State Fullerton and UC Irvine who have done an evaluation of the laptop program. They're here to present their findings. But at the same time, we also wanted to talk about some highlights of the laptop program, because any evaluation, in fact, any visit to one of the laptop schools or any one of our schools is just a slice of the pie. And really we want to try to give you a more general idea of the whole picture as well. So, other than myself, and I'll be speaking toward the end of our special guest, we have brought in 3 special speakers, a teacher, a parent, and a former student. So they'll be giving you kind of more well-rounded view of the effect of the laptop program and some of the highlights in their eyes and benefits. So our first guest to speak is Pamela Zanell, and she's a 6th grade teacher at Hermosa Drive Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Zanell, and I teach the one-to-one laptop program at Hermosa Drive. I've been lucky to be part of this exceptional program for the last 6 years. As an educator, I've always felt the need to continue my own learning, so when the opportunity became available for me to deepen and develop my teaching practices using the laptop computer, I was intrigued. It's been an exciting journey, discovering ways to enhance the curriculum using technology. In a world where children know more about computers than most adults and are engaged in visual stimulation more than we would like them to be, it's necessary for educators to keep up with the 21st century trends and teach students in today's classrooms in such a way that will encourage deep understanding of the standards as well as an understanding of the tools we use. In our one-to-one classrooms, students use the computer as a tool to create products that show their understanding of lessons taught. They can be as creative as they would like to be or as simple as their personality allows. It's a wonderful technique to differentiate education. For example, some students may read passages into one of the Apple applications available, such as GarageBand, then listen to it read back to them in order to practice their fluency and comprehension. Other students may prefer to read it on their own and then create a product to show comprehension and understanding. Anjali, one of my 6th grade students, says, "I love the laptop program. I've learned to use technology to do everything. I can take notes, create SketchUps, study, and use the internet to find all types of information. Compared to my friends who don't have the one-to-one program, I know more about the computer and how to use it. It's the best." The program also encourages and promotes responsibility. Students need to be reliable and trustworthy when taking care of their computers. They find a sense of maturity that can be nurtured in the classroom to spill over into other lessons, life ones, or teacher taught. Tanner says, "The one-to-one program was amazing this year. I have learned how to take responsibility over my computer. We had to make sure that our computers were in shape and they were working. If the computers weren't working, we had to fill out a trouble ticket so the tech guys could fix it. I have learned how to use the computers at school and at home. From what I've learned from the one-to-one program, I've helped my family when they bought an Apple computer. I'm very glad that our school has the one-to-one program. If we didn't have it, kids wouldn't be able to experience how to use a great computer like the ones we got to use. The program has made some people want to start in the age of technology. I really like having the one-to-one program at our school. Thank you so much for your time and attention to this amazing program. I encourage all of you to come and visit and see all that we do in action each and every day.
Our second special guest is Lester Ip, and he's a parent of a student in the program.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lester Ip. I have 2 children at Fissler School, a kindergartner going to 1st grade and a 3rd grader going into 4th grade. Initially, I had my reservations, like many parents, about the technology program. Why is it necessary to purchase a $1,200 computer to kids when most kids can't be trusted with things of a few $100s? And the more I thought about this, it's not because I'm a Luddite or some sort of technophobe. I think it's quite the contrary. I actually believe that if we're giving the kids computers, we need to not just give it to them as a tool where they can be trained monkeys and learn how to utilize an application and nothing beyond that, but really understand the tool, use a little bit more, do a little bit more with it, and utilize it to create more. A good example is when my daughter initially got her laptop. She learned the ins and outs on just basic typing, basic word processing, maybe getting on the internet and whatnot. In about a year's time, she understands that the computer can be used more than just for schoolwork. She explores on her own. It doesn't matter that she's using a computer with a different operating system. She understands that using a web browser she can do more than just go to one website. It's going beyond what you're given. It's having the ability to further causation and correlation with the computer. And the more I think about this program, the more I think, as evidence in this room, everyone seems to have a computer on their lap or on their desk. It's become a part of our environment. It's a tool for us. It is an appliance for us. In my generation, the computer was seen as a pretty high-tech thing. Most of us didn't get exposed to those until we were in high school or college. In my parents' generation, a microwave or a TV remote or a VCR was considered high-tech. These days, with the exception of some very advanced microwave VCR. But I think the point is, even though it's a bit of a monetary sacrifice for the laptop program, it does pay benefits because eventually all the kids are going to be expected to be comfortable in using this. It's not just a matter of giving it to them and having them learn how to use the program. It's going to be more of a tool for them to advance their education. And if we don't work with them to expose them to it at an early stage, it's going to be more and more difficult for them to get comfortable with. So even with reservations early on, I think that the laptop program is great. I'd like to see how we can expand that and do more with it for the kids. Thank you.
My final guest speaker before me is Amanda Long, and she's a former student of the program, and actually she was among the first, in the first graduating or promoting class at Fissler School.
Much like the teacher from Hermosa said, sometimes students have the opportunity to make a product of what they've learned, and today I brought in something that my 6-year-old, now she's 7, but she was 6 when she made them, a product of what she did in 2nd grade. So. This is from my sister Alyssa. This is sister. Yeah. You're thinking it was yeah, I have a sister in 6th grade. Oh no, sister wasn't around when I was
Took that whole week.
Hey, at least you guys are paying attention, right? So that's good to hear. Anyhow, good evening, President Thornley, members of the board, and Dr. Hovey. As Fissler School's first student body president and member of the inaugural class, I'm quite excited and honored to share with you my experience with the laptop one-to-one program. I was raised in Huntington Beach, but But when my parents heard from friends and family that a public school was being built that would have a science and technology emphasis via an Apple one-to-one program, we bought a home here because my parents were convicted that this was the school that would give their 3 daughters the best preparation for further education. As my parents predicted, Visler School, and particularly the exposure via the student laptop, proved advantageous in my high school and college experience. The thing about the laptop program is that the benefits aren't solely seen in the elementary years, but rather give students the hands-on head start that is demanded in the high school and college experience. My sister Alyssa, that you guys are looking at right now, and she kind of looks like me though, so I told you guys there, just finished 2nd grade at Visler School, and as you all know, 2nd grade is when the students first receive their own laptop. When I came home to visit from college, my 7-year-old sister said, Amanda, let me show you something. It's really cool. I'm in a video. She proceeded to Visler's homepage where she clicked on her teacher's name and pulled up a podcast called What's the Matter, G6? It is a movie with the students singing, matter has 3 states, solid, liquid, gas. You can form it, squeeze it, something. That's how the tune went, and something like that. There was music in the background similar to the beats that Alyssa had made on GarageBand. This situation just goes to show how excited students get when they are learning science and new time and technology. In Alyssa's classroom, she pulled me over and showed me a picture of herself that she made opaque so that it was in the backdrop of the poem she had written. It is these engaging, see what I can do experiences that makes their subject, whether it be science or poetry, exciting, memorable, and advanced. My sister Amy's favorite experience with the laptop program was getting to work with animations and Photoshop in her 8th grade technology class. This exposure led her to choose the Troy Tech program over the IB program at Sunny Hills so that she could continue in her passion for technology and science. She just finished her sophomore year and can now create computer programs, including a game like the one you would see in an arcade. After her AP Computer Science examination, I called her on the phone from college and asked her, Amy, how was your first AP test? And she said, oh, it went well. It was a lot easier than class. And if you guys have kids of your own, then you'd probably agree with me that that's not always the case after you finish an AP examination. Amy had early exposure to technology that it became second nature. Just like sports, if your child is going to be a serious athlete in high school or college, it's best that you start them early. Earlier the better. I am currently a pharmacy student at the St. Louis College of Pharmacy, a 6-year accelerated doctorate program, and not surprisingly, our school models Visler. Each student receives their own laptop, and all the laptops are the same, so that our simulations and our core science classes are not only efficient, but make the abstract laws like Poiseuille's law and Newton's laws from physics not only tangible, but the entire class can be on the same page as the professor speaks from the front. This way we cover the maximum amount of material and it's engaging. The Laptop 101 program makes learning hands-on, exciting, and state-of-the-art. It is one of the best ways to prepare students for the rigor and reality of high school and college. I am so sincere when I say this that my sisters and I are very grateful that our parents sent us to Visler School, where we received the education and foundation to succeed in higher levels. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
You did good.
Yeah, you gotta hang back up now.
I have a few more things to add. I wanted to make sure that you understand that this is a report, an evaluation report from the 7th year of the program. There have been 3 previous independent evaluations of the program. And the fact is that there are a lot of findings that we've seen through these different evaluations. Among them, and I'll read these to you so that you don't have to strain your eyes or anything, but the progression of laptop use through several grade levels produces more efficient students who can focus on the learning. So that's definitely one of the key findings they've seen, that as students are in the program longer, we're seeing more and more benefits. The educational shift from learning about laptops to learning with laptops. Again, as they use them more, it's not just about an application, but how it's utilized in the classroom, how it's utilized to really transform teaching and learning. And one of the other findings was that students are just excited to collaborate and learn. And teachers, in many of their quotes, they're excited to teach, spending extra hours planning, spending extra time really evaluating huge projects that the students are doing that go beyond just a report. Here's a quote from a 7th and 8th grade teacher at Nicholas. And she said, "The laptop provides a positive learning experience for different levels of achievement, from EL students to my honors class." And this kind of goes in line with what Mrs. Zanella was talking about in terms of the idea of differentiation. You know, we're able to differentiate so that our students who are at a higher level, we're still meeting their needs and extending their learning, while the students who may be struggling or may need some sort of support are still also able to succeed in the program. We had a parent comment from a 3rd grade parent, and she said, "We shouldn't limit kids by having laptops only in the classroom." You know, and that was really one of those things that was eye-opening, because it just kind of went to show that she appreciates the fact that, you know, it's something that they're able to take home and learn from. One of the most important reasons I believe that we have our laptop program is for the future. The Common Core Standards are a reality, and one of the big things in the Common Core Standards are that students need to be able to use technology strategically when creating, refining, and collaborating on writing, and other subject areas as well. Technology is infused throughout the whole Common Core Standards. So in a lot of ways, like Amanda was saying, we're preparing our students. We're trying to get them ready for the future, and this is not only the future, but the present, whether it's online testing or being able to create. And when we talk about creation, here's just a sample of what our students are able to do.
Literary devices are all around. Look over, under, left, and right, they will be found. They paint a picture in our mind and make our writing also fine. They are sure to astound. It's easy, go ahead and try. I don't hyperbole, exaggerate and magnify. I'm so hungry, I eat a horse. She's so tall, she reaches the sky. I am such a drama queen, I sometimes might make you cry, but I'm not all that bad, all I do is emphasize. Literary devices are all around. Look over, under, left, and right, they will be found. They paint a picture in our minds and make our writing also fine. They are sure to astound, it's easy, go ahead and try. Click, clack, buzzing, onomatopoeia is my name, and I like to imitate sounds and things illustrate. Look at the pages, you'll find me. I have courses A to Z. You can hear me anywhere. Use one I does is fair. Literary devices are all around. Look over, under, left, and right, they will be found. We paint a picture in our minds and make our writing also fine. They are sure to astound. It's easy, go ahead and try.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. There's more to it. This is actually from a grant that we wrote, where we brought in musical instruments, and it was basically taking Schoolhouse Rock and creating our own songs. But again, one of those things that, you know, we're able to create products that really showcase not only mastery of the learning, but create and construct the knowledge in a way that's much more engaging, and the students will retain it. I mean, when you hear them practicing the songs during recess or after school, you know that they're going to remember it. So each of our different laptop evaluations have focused on slightly different topics. And the one that they'll be explaining, of course, dealt a lot with CST scores and also 21st century learning readiness. So that's what they'll be talking about today. And I introduce Loretta Donovan and Lori Hansen.
Okay, first time, new tech. I'm Loretta, and this is Laurie, and I'm with Cal State Fullerton, and Laurie is with UC Irvine. I conducted the Year 2, Year 3, and Year 4 evaluations. 2, 3, 4, yeah. Just for people who maybe aren't familiar. 1, 2, no, I didn't do 1. I did 2, 4, 7, 4. I did 2 and 4, and this one. Mark Warshower and Doug Rice from UCI. So the program began in 2004 and recently just finished its 7th year. So the previous evaluations were conducted in years 1, 2, and 4. As you would know, more recently the program has shifted in a little bit in how it represents itself. So there's two distinct models, 24/7 access, which was the initial model, and then some schools now have school day access only to the laptops. The students at Fissler and Hermosa have been part of the laptop program with the 24/7 access since it began. Nicholas has had that as well, but you know, there's not as many years in that school, so you don't have as much information on that. So we conducted our evaluation this time. We presented the proposal to you and you all read it. We would look at student achievement data and we would also look at 21st century readiness.
So we analyzed math and English language arts CST scores from 2007 to 2010, and we were given data that was aggregated by grade level and at each school. And so we were able to analyze differences in test scores between the three options. So we could compare the 24/7 access to the 8-hour-a-day access to the no one-to-one laptop option. And what we did is we conducted statistical analysis of variances that it allowed us to compare these three options and control for the effects of the schools, because we know that test scores can be very different between schools depending on the neighborhood composition and the demographics. So SES, the number of LEP children that are at school. And so when you control for the effect of the schools, we can see what impact the one-to-one access has above and beyond school.
For the 21st century readiness part of the evaluation, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the Partnership for 21st Century Skills created a survey that is actually no longer even available. I happen to have a copy. So we modified that survey and made it more contemporary. In the original survey, they had things like, do you have a dial-up or high-speed internet? So we kind of deleted that question. We don't need to worry about that one. And we added in things like access to interactive whiteboards, access to creativity tools and things like that. So we requested that at each grade level where the laptop program, either of the models was in existence, that as a team, the grade level teachers completed the survey, and at each school, the administrators completed the survey. So for schools where there was no laptop program, it was only the administrators returning the survey. Unfortunately, not all schools did return the survey despite numerous reminders of me saying to Ted and Ted saying to them, and then things were trickling in slowly but surely, but unfortunately we did not get all of the surveys back. We tried very hard to do that. We were able to analyze the data by determining, and this was the way that the Partnership for 21st Centuries designed the survey as well. So you determine low, mid, high, or target level with readiness with regards to access, tools, and professional development. Access doesn't imply use. We did not go into the classrooms and see that they were using Promethean boards. We reported, do you have a Promethean board? We were not able to, through this we didn't give any indication of use, but only readiness. And having those tools implies that there is going to be some readiness. So, this is what we found.
So when we looked at English language arts CST scores, we found that the students who had 24/7 access had higher ELO test scores than students in either the 8-hour programs or the no one-to-one laptop programs. And that's, again, controlling for the effects of schools, the differences between schools. When we looked at the math CST scores, we found that there was no difference in student achievement based upon laptop access. And we also looked at growth over time in test scores in math and English language arts. And what we found was that students in all of the three options showed growth. However, the students who were in the 24/7 access showed greater growth than the other models. And so, than the ones that had no laptop access, no one-to-one laptop access, or 8-hour laptop access. Again, controlling for the differences between schools.
So, just before I move on to that, I wanted to point out that Amanda presented the practical significance. This is purely based on the test score data and things like that. but we also could find, based on things like the fact that all of the test scores went up and things, that there's a lot of practical impact onto having the access to the laptops. So with 21st century readiness, FISLA was the only school, and this is not really surprising because it is a 2nd through 8th grade, and it does have a defined, as Ted pointed out, that there is a scope of how, in 2nd grade they learn how the basic functions, by the time they get to 5th and 6th grade they're more advanced. Hermosa Drive, Acacia and Richmond are not part of the program, did show readiness for 21st century teaching and learning. Admittedly, we are basing this on what the teachers reported to us. We were very pleased to see that within the district there were pockets of target readiness. Some of it was at 1 grade level, some of it was at some schools represented upper grade levels had a lot of readiness versus lower grades and things like that. Sadly, at Nicholas, what we found was that there was consistency with readiness, except the special ed people reported not a lot of readiness, which when we get to our recommendations is something that we really feel. Really, it just stood out that Nicholas was pretty consistent, and then there was special ed saying, we don't really have that. So there was a bit of a divide there. So, based on what we found, and you've had the report, and it's obviously a lot longer than 4 slides, we recommend that you continue to promote and to support the program with the 24/7 laptop access. We're basing this on the CST test score data that Laurie shared, but also when we compared for individual differences with the schools and things like that. And we don't feel we're in a position to make a judgment on the 8-hour school day at this time, because if you look at evaluation research and longitudinal research, that Ted also mentioned this, that the more years in the program, the more impact. And so we're not really at a point, because some of the schools where it's 8-hour, they just expanded it this year to a different grade level, they're expanding it next year. We don't have enough of a trend to make a determination at this time about the impact on the 8-hour day. So our second recommendation is that, because we based this one on what the 8-hour school day versus the 24/7. And we know, and Pamela gave examples of what her students are doing with their laptops, and yet we also know that at some of the 8-hour schools, those teachers are newer to using the laptops. If you're familiar with any of the ACOT research about when the laptops and one-to-one programs first started back in the 80s, you go through these stages. And so kind of to push those through the stages a little faster, if you had people like Pamela pairing up and mentoring, collaborating with people at Maple and Orangethorpe, sharing ideas, giving those tips that we all as teachers, it takes a while to get used to, and working with newer teachers who see that they make the rookie mistakes, and so having a veteran teacher help them through that would benefit the program. We also feel, based on the fact that some schools in 2nd grade, they say, oh, we don't all have Promethean boards. And in 6th grade, they're like, oh, we've all got them. And the principal's like, oh yeah, we've got them all. That there needs to be a technology plan so that each school has a cohesive vision of the technology access and the professional development that they have. I don't know if some schools do have that, but it would benefit, because things like iPads, and I know that several of the teachers in the district recently applied for grants and got iPads. Well, if when they're not using the iPad, someone else at the school could use them, that's going to benefit the entire school community. Based on what we found at Nicholas, we'd like to recommend that the special education program within the district really look at how technology can be used. In particular, we know, and there's a lot of research coming out, and there's a lot of practical articles about using iPads and iPod touches with special ed students. Because of the auditory learners, they can repeat, and being able to go in, like the student go into their podcast and re-listen to things and getting that. So we recommend that you have a plan to use tech in special ed. We got a little bit frustrated with the data analysis part of this, because we couldn't really compare individual students. Amanda's a great example of, yes, so someone who left the program, went to high school, and was able to say, it really helped me in high school. We would love to be able to show that with statistics, because that's going to give it a lot more weight. So, you know, we're just going to get you to do all these things. But having a system in place where you can track students by individual, where, and I don't know anything about how you give out student IDs. I did listen to some of them as they were allowed back into the district. But having things like that in place where students can be tracked across when they change schools, when they leave 6th grade at Fisler and go to Parks, when they go to different schools, being able to track them more consistently would really help with being able to make informed decisions about the impact of the laptop programs. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Do you want me to open it up for any questions?
I have a number of questions.
I'm assuming that there would be some
Okay.
questions, so.
Notes here. Can you explain how you controlled for school differences between? I assume what you meant is that you control for test capabilities between one school that might have higher test scores than another, between two schools that are both 24/7, or
When you do the analysis of variance, the ANOVAs, you can enter in, you can compare the 3 groups, 3 treatments, but you can also add schooling. So basically, when you do an ANOVA, you're looking at the means test scores. So you can see what are the mean ELA test scores of the 24/7 kids, the 8-hour kids, and the no one-to-one laptop. And then by school, and this is all done on the computer using statistical software, they can look at, it looks at, so comparing how the school did as a whole to the 24/7 kids. Because as you know, not every classroom, every grade level at every school used the 24/7. Sometimes there was different, like maybe only 5th grade or 6th grade. So controlling the school as a whole to how the 24/7 kids did. And if there's a sufficient gap in test scores, then it's statistically significant. It's greater than the margin of error.
did I not?
Chris, can I jump on that one piece of the question? I misunderstood what you were saying. So you don't enter in socioeconomic factors?
Because we were not given data by individual student, in order to do that, you have to have individual student data that has the kid's ID number, their test scores over the 5 years, has to say what their SCS status, so maybe their parent, their parent education or the free or reduced lunch status, what their ethnic group is, what their EL status is. And if you have that, then you can do multiple regressions and you can look at the impact of each of these factors, and you could then control for, let's say, LEP compared to FEP compared to EO children. But the way I accounted for this is by looking at the schools, because we know at schools there's going to be some schools that have higher test scores than others because they have maybe fewer EL students, maybe they have fewer special education students, maybe they have more white and Latino students, more high socioeconomic, compared to other schools that might have more children living in poverty, more English learners. And so we did it by school.
In other words, you looked at a school and designated the school low socioeconomic?
No. No, the statistical program basically is looking at, like I said, with the means. It's a detailed explanation, and it takes several courses and several books to understand it and using it over years. So it's probably a very detailed explanation that is kind of beyond the scope of this meeting here. But knowing that schools are different, entering it in by school, that's the only way we could do it. Because we didn't have
the school difference, not individual
Yes,
students.
I understand now. The differences that were based on technology.
No, the differences were based on the test scores of each of the schools.
Thank you.
Right.
Looking to see what technology.
So you're comparing, saying one school, saying, are they that much better than this school? And you make them equal to begin with, and then you compare their growth.
You're looking at above and beyond the differences between schools. What does the 24/7, 8-hour programs add? What is the additional change in test scores?
What I'm trying to determine is, other than clearly the kids learn how to use these laptops well. There's no question that they've become to some degree experts in using Apple laptops. It's whether or not they are, the programs are educationally superior to programs that we have that aren't using these, because the program is expensive. We're considering a nearly $500,000 lease agreement today, and we ask parents to spend significant money of their own. What I read essentially said there was little difference in the ELA scores between 24/7 and no laptop program. Did I read that correctly?
No.
The opposite. It was the opposite. It's the next one.
It's
school-based.
There was little difference between the 8-hour access
and the no one-to-one laptop. And actually, because we didn't have individual data, I believe that our statistical analyses are conservative, that we would have found greater effects had we had more accurate data.
But how do you account for the fact that, like, the very talented young lady that was from the first graduating class from Fissler, that these programs are so sought after, that highly motivated families with highly motivated children choose them? How do we know that a school with the same children wouldn't do as well without the program? I'm not saying that I know that they wouldn't. How do we know that?
We don't know that, but however, if you look at the program-wide, and so Amanda here, her family moved to go to Fissler, and I don't know any of the stats about how many people move into the Hermosa district, but we can also say that the test scores at Hermosa showed significance as well.
So it seems like those are 24/7.
Yeah, but we've got Beechwood, where a lot of people need to go. And if we look at the difference in
Which is just as high as this.
The way you would determine that is by randomly assigning 24/7, 8-hour, and no one-to-one laptop. That's how you would.
You would have to do tests. You would have to do a test.
Right.
If you randomly assign it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But again, that's why we wanted to include schools as a variable in our statistical analysis, because otherwise we're going to. Yeah, I mean, some schools have really high test scores. It's the case everywhere in our country.
By the way, I want to make it clear, I'm not implying that you didn't do a good job defining for us better what the answers to these questions are. If you weren't allowed to use individual data, and you weren't allowed to sort of do your own experimentation and create control groups and such, there's only so much you can do.
You know, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the research on one-to-one and access to the internet and things like that. I just came across an article today that I actually sent to Ted, and it was about a school, and I don't know exactly what the school was, but it was predominantly African-American, $15,000 annual income, and they compared students who had internet access and how much they use the internet at home versus so for example, me, I might have used the internet 4 hours a day at home, and Laurie might have used it 2 hours a day, and they compared our ELA test scores. Mine was significantly, well, not mine, but the students who used the internet more at home, this was totally independent of their school performance, of using it at school. The students who used it at home had significantly higher test scores.
But that doesn't necessarily imply that the use of the internet leads to the higher score. It could be the reverse.
The conclusions are, and there's a lot of research conducted on the impact of technology on language arts, because you're reading, right now, you're all reading. And so exposure to print is going to improve language arts test scores.
But there's a lot of ways, and I'm not trying to debate it, there's a lot of ways to be exposed to print other than 24/7 access.
But I'm sure if you offered a child a book or a computer, they'd probably pick a computer.
Let me go down a different path real briefly. And I'll be honest, we had so much stuff that we got Thursday for this meeting that I did not have time to read the entire report. I read the first half of it very carefully, and that was all I had time for. But it seems like you sort of had two major areas of research. It was this test score thing, and then evaluating this access to 21st century learning tools. And that was defined by this organization as ISTE organization.
International Society of Technology
Yeah.
Education, very, very long.
And you know, and I try to approach things with a critical eye rather than just accepting at face value. But I got on their website, and clearly the directors of this organization make their living off of advancing the cause of more technology in schools. Can you try to convince me that they would not be biased in their desire to say that more technology in schools is a better way to educate kids? Because I'm just not accepting that face value.
I can't speak for ISTE, however, my involvement with them is that they're all educated professionals, they are represented by corporations as well, and that they're not basing their statements that are part of their website. They didn't just develop the standards without using research to support them.
Can I ask you this just sort of as a separate issue? What about kids and addiction levels to electronic media? You know, there's lots of studies out about how many hours per week kids play video games, how many hours per week they watch television, screen time in general. And then I've got an article here in biomedcentral.com about the internet addiction, the 21st century epidemic. What is your sense of the balance between putting these things in these kids' heads?
I can't answer that because I'm one of those addicted people. I am. I check email on my phone like every 3 minutes, and I'm so upset when I don't have any messages to. I get anxiety if I'm on a plane and I can't check it. So, you know, I mean, I'm not your physician.
Let me text her.
Yeah. I'll get out to the phone into the car and check it. So, you know, that's not really within the scope of what we did. And I will be honest, there are two very distinct sides to that argument. And what someone says is not going to convince another person.
Can we educate?
On that.
If we take the skill with the computer out there and acknowledge they will be less skilled at this Apple computer and its associated softwares, can we educate these kids as well without 24/7 access as we can with it?
No.
Really?
Because as Amanda shared about her sisters, and as I'm experiencing with all of my teachers who I'm in teacher education, that it's the motivation factor that really makes a big difference. And, you know, I don't have my own children. Laurie does, and I have seen them. And her kids read books and they play sports, but they love to be on that computer. And as was shared, you know, being able to create a movie, okay, is so much more exciting than having to write a book report. Who was the main character? What was the plot? What was the setting? And it just becomes rote, and they lose interest.
I will say my daughter's never written a book report for fun.
Exactly.
She has.
So, I mean, you know, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
And people who are newer to technology, they all talk about the motivation factor. Technology's great, it motivates, it motivates, it motivates. I take the other side of it and I say, prove it. And then they'll come with me and give examples.
I just don't understand why we can't. Math would seem such an obvious way to have like games on software that would advance math skills, and we're not achieving.
The difference is that, and one of the reasons is that what's tested on a math standardized test are not the skills of critical thinking and problem solving, all of those things, playing those games, working out, okay, so should I go this way, should I go this way, if I go this way, I'm going to fall in the pit, if I go that way, I'm going to get my snake.
Why can't softwares teach the standardized testing skills?
STMath?
Yeah, but they're not achieving
Well,
them.
we just put it in this year. It wasn't on this evaluation.
I just wanted to add one quick thing. The assumption that the laptops are there so that they just learn the technology, just learn the laptop, is absolutely false. I mean, we're teaching students to think. We're actually teaching them to utilize and integrate the laptop as an environment for mastering the standards. So it's...
Ted, why do we have so many different schools, and these ladies were finding a pretty disjointed level of capability and focus, and why in the world would we be, you know, the technology district and all of the teachers that were sent
surveys that were called 3 times. I don't know, I didn't get on to the teachers. Why would we? I would think if we were that into technology, it was shown the spot back at these surveys.
I think faced with whether you're going to take some time to prepare a lesson or take some time to do a survey, teachers will almost always choose to prepare a lesson for the students.
Good answer.
Oh, and by the way, on the addiction thing, I think it's wonderful we have a program that's starting to use the technology for good instead of evil. Like, yes, we give them their fix of being on the internet or having screen time, but they're using it for educational purposes. Thanks.
Believe it or not, I'm done.
Can I just interject though on the technology aspect? I've recently gone back to work, and I left in accounting when having a computer at your desk was not even a reality, and the room was really big, that the big wheels got hung on, and all kinds of things. And then I came back in now to accounting, and proudly have learned a lot about Excel and uploading into ADP and Financial Edge, and then have taken that ability to look at things as an accountant with a numbers background and look at a spreadsheet and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that all these little formulas have been added, and it folds into the next spreadsheet, and I then upload it in, and I honestly have taken time recently to just really understand it. And, you know, thinking now that, my gosh, my kids were doing this in high school with the stuff that they're creating, and I know my son does it himself now, and I'm pretty proud of myself that I have now figured it out. And I see that, you know, that kids have to understand that. They have to be able to look at something and go, I put this here, and then I can add it there, and I can place it there, I can add to it, I can enhance it, I can make it move, I can share it with a friend, I can print a report. I mean, it's part of life. It's so much part of life. And, you know, because of my little exposure here, I was really comfortable to say to my boss, guess what, I can do that. Damn it, you know, and then sit there and go, but I did it, you know, and it's just part of what we do in the world now. It's part of every job. It's just part of life, and the fact that kids can do it much younger than me, and more power to them.
Just, you know, you gave a great example, because technology is one tool that all of these teachers use in the classroom. You have all these other programs. You've got all the arts, you've got the music, you know, you've got all these other programs, and technology is one of the many, many tools.
Right.
And so you were able to go in there, okay, so I know Excel, so I have a purpose for using Excel, which is where the shift of learning, you were not going to go out and learn Excel because you had nothing better to do, but you chose to learn Excel because it helped you to be more productive. And that's what technology does. And having the laptops in the hands of the students gives them that, so then when they go on to college, to high school, to wherever, they're going to be able to go, okay, I've got an hour. Can I create a movie, or should I go to the library, do this, do this? They're making decisions based on the tools they have access to. And that's the practical significance that doesn't show up in the test score.
I want to thank you for your time in making the program. And I found some interesting things that we didn't discuss tonight, and I just wanted to highlight them. On page 9, you have a chart of English language arts and math, and it shows the 24/7 program, the school day program, the laptop program for both math and language arts, and then you have the standard deviation of error for each evaluation. I probably didn't look at this in a way that you necessarily were looking at it, but since you did it longitudinally over 4 years, okay, what I saw was a little bit different than what your written thing said. I saw that under language arts, over 4 years, 24/7 program, I meant all of our 24/7 programs, gained about 40 points on a standardized test, because I believe we weren't looking to see if the value of laptops was good. We were just looking to try to answer the question that Chris asked, and it's a good question, and that is, how do kids who use laptops improve or does it show a difference on a standardized test? So they went up 40 points over 4 years. over 4 tests, 3 years. If you look at the school day, the 8-hour program, they went up 23. The no laptop program went up 20. Now 20 and 23 are probably the same for standard deviation of error. But in our district, because of funding and the way the government gives us money, there are total inequities. And our school-based programs are probably in our less affluent communities with more second language learners. And seeing that our second language learners can make a similar rate of growth as our no laptop program is impressive. And in the math, where the 24/7 program went up 50 points, the school day program, I think, went up like 35, 38, and the no laptop went up 29. So in math, we do see some data.
There's no, and that may be true. I'm unconvinced because A, we don't have enough examples. We don't have a control study. You know, and I'm going to steal Beth's thunder here, but that's what they were focusing on. We don't know that if they were focusing on an alternative method of improving test scores that they could have.
But that's what they're asked, and their data for what they were asked to do shows us this. So what it really creates in my mind is one of the things I don't like about laptops, that I really don't like, is after a few years, they're dated. And believe me, on mine on the board table is a 7-year-old laptop. I'm not using it tonight. And there are programs I cannot get to run, and things I cannot get to open that probably would be great little things my friend showed me. Anyway, because they are limited in the number of years of their maximum potential, I would like to see our 8-hour school day programs send them home with students. If we are seeing that there is significant difference in academic growth between a 24/7 program and an 8-hour program, why aren't we sending them home? We need to somehow trust kids, and we know that in a lot of our schools, children are not paying for those laptops. They're being paid for by other means, and we're not seeing huge rates of loss, theft, disrespect. So maybe we need to start some schools for some grade levels, maybe 6th grade, I don't know, and let children take home. If our data is showing us, if this was medical, it's almost malpractice not to have these going 24/7.
But we don't have the numbers to prove your hypothesis.
But we are. All of their data says.
But it's anecdotal. It's not a significant enough sample.
But it is, that thing, it is a significant enough sample. And Hilda, you were here when we did the last evaluation, and if you remember that one, the students at Nicholas showed the greatest improvement of any of the laptop students in their test scores.
I have another question.
That was the last evaluation, not this one.
Yeah, so they're not having that.
And that's when it was 1-to-1.
That's when it was 1-to-1, 24/7 in the
The whole
whole
school
school.
was 1-to-1. And go ahead, Beth. I have another question.
I guess my question is that when I'm looking at this data, because as I look at this, and you're saying that these scores have gone up at these schools, the 24/7, the 8-hour, how can you determine it's because of a laptop? How can you determine it's not because of a program that you've brought into one of those schools that, like a gateway program, or something that they're working on in addition to the laptop program or the computers?
You can't state that emphatically, but I'll refer back to what Pamela talked about, and that it's a changed pedagogy. So with the technology comes a different way to teach. So instead of Pamela standing up there and telling the students and them opening up their math book to page 27 and working out of it, the pedagogy changes, which brings about the creativity and the critical thinking, which then can... So it's not saying, oh, put a laptop in front of a kid, their test scores are going to go up. No one's going to tell you that.
I don't want you to
So
get
it's,
defensive.
no, I'm not, but it's very well known, and when my students say the same thing to me, well, you know, they have the computers and they're going to get better. No, the technology doesn't change it. It's the pedagogy.
Absolutely.
It's having those boards in the classroom. It's the entire environment, which is why the second half of the evaluation was on the readiness.
Right. Well, our teachers have to be able to use it the right way.
Exactly.
I understand completely. I have 2 kids, completely different learners. I have one student who thrives on technology, and I have one student that brings up points that are very valid in is it always necessary? So I've got both ends of the house when I'm looking at this, and I'm not bringing this stuff up to be argumentative.
No,
I'm
and
just
I
trying
don't
to
take it that
understand the concepts on which you're looking at this and trying to really identify where we're looking at.
So no, I mean, and no one in educational research would say that you can say it was the laptop,
Right.
but they would say that it's the environment created by
Absolutely, and that's understandable.
It's,
Hey, could you look at page 15 on your thing? It also shows the map, and it shows that however you look at it, the 24/7 is on the highest.
I look at that and I think those schools are going to test higher regardless. And
Well, Hermosa has, what is it, 24, what's your percentage of reduced lunch at Hermosa?
I don't know.
Hermosa has an ever increasing.
20 in the 20s.
But if you look at other schools, they're outperforming them and some of their neighboring schools. And they have second language learners who happen to be Hispanic at Hermosa.
Could I just make a comment?
Hi.
I think that's why it's important to look at growth over time. Because if you just compare, okay, Fissler, or the 24/7's here, or Fissler's here, and another school's here, but when you see the growth, and as you pointed out, Hilda, that the other 2 programs made growth, I think that that's where you see the power in it. And I think somebody mentioned, you know, we're looking at the math test scores, and we didn't find statistical significance. Again, without having the individual data, it's a matter of statistical power that when you have that data, you have more power to find differences. So it may well be that there are differences that don't show up here in this report.
Why didn't we share our individual student data with just numbers? We wouldn't have to reveal students. Was there a reason we didn't? Did you ask for it?
Yes.
Why didn't we do that? What was the reason?
Part is because of confidentiality, and basically in order to starting to share student information, you would need permission of parents in order to share that information.
Even if it's
Anonymous?
anonymous?
It's still their data, and we would still need some form of permission in order to use any individual student data.
because of the things such as the SES and things like that.
Right, they need a free
Even if they're
reduced
going to
lunch account.
participate in the
Reduced
survey.
lunch.
You know, even if they're going to participate in the survey, you've got to get.
I don't know that
And look at this.
I would have to be shown.
A kid could write a thank you note, and this is the thank you note that was done. I know, but
That kid would have done that. I mean, that kid lives around the corner from me. He would have done that by hand. If the computer just allowed him to do it quicker. Actually, that wasn't a very nice thing to say. It was very nice to Jake.
it makes something different, and it's very impressive.
Yeah.
And he probably wouldn't have put by hand like
And I
that.
don't think anyone is arguing the fact that technology
Right.
is wonderful to integrate into things and language.
Oh,
It's just weighing whether it's better than what we could do with that money otherwise, or how much worse it would be if we didn't spend the money.
I think it's very true, though. It's the kids do get excited by it, and I think that is valid. I mean, the kids are all fired up about school, but I don't know.
Is that the end of this fabulous?
If Amanda could just add one quick thing, that'd be great.
Okay, Amanda. Well, of course, we're very proud of your accomplishments. Another arm.
You can talk about what you want. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. One of my favorite things to do is to address the opposing argument. That's the most fun, right? So just like you.
Bring it on, man.
Mr. Thompson.
Let's go.
I love it.
I think I'm going to lose, but.
Before she starts, technology evens off age differences, and we see it everywhere.
So does a higher IQ. It's probably a bigger problem.
Okay. What I love to do is relate. I played varsity sports. I don't know if you guys are into sports, but I played basketball since I was 4, and so I'm really into my shot. I'm into preparing for it, and just as obsessed as I am with academics and education. In fact, I served on Fullerton Joint Union High School's school board as a student board member last year, my senior year. Anyhow, I'm as interested in basketball as I am in school.
Troy.
No, I went to Sunny Hills, but tore 2 ACLs, so I was the prodigy, but then I tore 2 ACLs, so, you know, it was very humbling, though, so it's okay, I enjoyed that. So what I have to say about the laptop program, you made a statement, and I loved it. You said, how can we show that this progress is due to the laptop? How do we know that it's not because one school is more affluent, simply more affluent than the other? You know, so how do we know that it's a laptop?
Actually, my concern is really more about, not my concern, but the statistical point is that people go there, highly motivated people chose to move to that school because of the program. Very likely based upon what you told us about your family.
Definitely,
your
I agree.
parents are into education.
Definitely, and so are many of the families that attend Fissler
Right.
School. Either way, it's unarguable that Fissler School drew these kind of motivated families to this school district, thus raising the scores. It wasn't just me, it was my cousins and my other cousins who also moved to the Amherst Heights community. And so, yes, I am doing my Okay, anyway, I really want to get to my analogy.
The point is how well we educate your child.
Okay, so when training, Mr. Thompson, when training an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So you have Kobe Bryant. I'm going to give you Kobe Bryant, and I'm going to give him an option. I'm going to ask Kobe Bryant, did you become so athletic? Was it because you had a wonderful gym to work in, or was it was it your gym that really made you good? And he may say yes, he may say no. See, was it that he had that elliptical that made him better? Maybe yes, maybe no. Could he have gotten better with or without the elliptical? I think he could have. He's Kobe Bryant. I think whether he had the elliptical or not, he would run 17 miles a day because he wants to get better. So I definitely say that progress is possible without the elliptical. Definitely without the elliptical, it is possible. But not everybody is Kobe Bryant. And so, why is it that when people go on a diet, it's so much easier to go to the gym and work out than it is in your own home? If you have the elliptical in your garage, you'll work out, but if you didn't have the elliptical, I'm sure you wouldn't work out. See, the thing is with the elliptical is that it makes you want to work out. It makes you work out longer. It makes it easier on your knees, which is the excuse. And that's why I think having a laptop is a lot like having an elliptical. Having a laptop 24/7 is like having a gym pass to 24-hour fitness. See, the thing is that...
Do you want to see my gym card on my wall that hasn't seen the light of day?
But see, Mr. Thompson, that was also your point. It's not just having the laptop that makes the student smarter. You have to actually use it, and you have to actually use it correctly. You can't just own it, right? Because then any rich parent could buy their student a laptop. Would they get any smarter? Not necessarily. My parents are one of those people who have the elliptical in their garage and don't use it. So that does happen. But trust me, if at work they forced my parents to use the elliptical and then gave them homework and said the elliptical's at home too, tell me how much you use it and record it, then my parents would be forced to use the elliptical and thus they would lose weight. I'm just saying that having a laptop is a lot like having a I'm just saying, you can take it for what it's worth, but I really think that having a laptop is a lot like having an elliptical or a gym pass.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Not enough.
Awesome.
Are
Thank
you
you,
sleeping out?
ladies. Thank you for your...
We have a whole rest of the meeting.
Thanks.
I would
thought-provoking arguments there on whether or not you get the lift to go out of the garage or anything.
My compliments to the president's patience with all of that. That was impressive.
We knew we had some issues we had to think through. This was just a presentation. Now we'll move on to the rest of the meeting. Superintendent's report is next on the agenda. Dr. Hubby.
And I dare not go very long. I do want to introduce Susan Hume and her husband Ed, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and her husband Ed. We're pleased to have you part of business. Susan will start with us July the 1st.
Friday.
Be here for a day, and then she's going to be on vacation. She's going to come back. But we're really happy.
Maybe. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is I wanted to say before I wish everyone a great summer break, because I don't know about you, but it's been a very long year, but we have accomplished so many wonderful things. And I'm looking forward to some summertime, just downtime to stop, to step back, reflect, and relax a little bit. But I also wanted to say that we, throughout the year, we've been working on the process of redesigning the evaluation instrument that we use for our principals and our teachers. And that process has been very successful. We've had some very good discussions. We had two very successful subcommittee meetings, one on June 20th and one on June 24th, where we brought in teachers and principals. We worked together to continue the discussion that we started throughout the year on redesigning evaluation. And we actually came away, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Douglas, with a draft of what that might look like. Is that not right?
It's very close to being correct. That's right. Your side of the group was a little bit more successful than mine because we had so many nuances. Plus, Pam Zanell, she's still here? No. I was going to pick on her. She left the meeting ahead of things, so we've been done sooner. Yes, we have a draft.
No, but we have made great progress, and we're having some good discussions.
We are.
Our goal is really to begin doing some piloting next year. I wanted to thank, special thanks to Mark and Janet for their leadership. We all started the process together. The hard part for me was to step back and let them take the leadership. In fact, I stayed away for 40 minutes, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to come back.
We locked the door.
But we did have some good discussions, and I'm really pleased with how we revised the principal's evaluation instrument to make it more concise and more usable. And we're going sort of the same direction that we've been doing with principals, sort of the same way with teachers, where we're really beginning to look at things that will make it more usable, more meaningful as we're looking at data and what we really need to do. So,
well, and that our ultimate goal was student achievement. That was our goal for both committees, and that was the focus for both committees, and that's what I think we're producing.
Right. So we'll continue with that process. Our goal is to take it out and have some discussions, some regionalized meetings, and talk with teachers and let them know where we're going, what we're doing. But we're taking it step by step, and we'll continue to meet with the subcommittee. We'll be back with the larger committee in the fall. We'll do some piloting, and we have many more discussions yet to come, but we're really on the right pathway. And again, Mark and Janet, thank you for your help and support in making that work and for moving us forward. That's all I have to say.
Thanks. Information from the Board of Trustees. I just want to start with one thought or observation. We have some marvelous organizations in our community. Rotary and DAR help support our 8th graders as they promote into high school. And I truly was so pleasantly pleased to watch the excitement on one young man's face when he received the award from Rotary. I think he got the Rotary Award at Nicholas. I don't, to have a kid be acknowledged like that and to actually see him with that much enthusiasm, excitement, I don't know that he ever won anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was truly one of the moments when you go, oh my gosh, we've done it. We've hooked him. He wants to achieve now. He's gotten his stroke. He feels good. I mean, there's little things in life that make you do that, but just to see that moment was truly special. And to know that those community groups are out there helping our kids feel that way really warms your heart. Great day to celebrate with the families and do all that hand jive stuff that Nicholas does and hear the cheers, but to see that little face just light up when he won that award, you go, yes, thank you. Thank you for giving that kid that moment. And we wish all those 8th grade kids the huge success so they too could go on to college and and do great things too.
And
So,
donate to the company.
yes, yes, right, and yes. So, since you're on a roll, Chris, how about it? You want to go next?
I really enjoy the graduations, and you know, a lot of my buddies are not people that are in their education communities other than sports, and I got a number of, I told them I was going to 3 junior high graduations, and several of them said, that right there would cause me to never run for school.
Sweaty hands is shaking.
Yeah, but when we got to Beechwood, we had the cushy lobby chairs and the bottle of water under the deal, and
the parking place.
In the parking place, it's a different experience to get to sit up and be really close to those kids' faces, and they were a great time. I can honestly say I will look forward to that next year. And I was kind of dreading sitting in the sun for 3 2-hour sessions, although we had awesome weather.
Yes,
for
they say
it.
next year it's going to be 100.
And they were all very different. The Beechwoods was kind of raucous and a great time. Those kids, were having a blast. And Fissler's was incredibly impressive, and the teacher singing the country western song was unbelievable. And I had that on video, by the way. And Parks was super impressive at Point Parks and the stadium, and they all had a really, watching junior high kids graduate is a pretty amazing experience. Anyway, it was a blast, and thank you to those schools that invited us, and I'm really looking forward to it next year. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, Trustee Berryman.
Thank you. I agree. Shaking all of those hands was well worth it. I think we must have, hundreds and hundreds.
Mostly
of
Lynn
hands.
handshaking.
She had some good handshakes with
Got some
eye
good ones.
contact. So,
Yeah.
I wanted to just report, I attended a legislative meeting at Jose Solario's invitation last week. And I think we were all invited, but I wanted to go because Tom Torlson, I can never pronounce his name, Torlson, was speaking. And I had never had the opportunity to see him speak, so I wanted to go in and see what he was going to talk about. One thing that I did notice right away with him is that he is very much different than our former state superintendent, whereas when he came in, stopped and spoke to everyone, and then after he spoke, he stayed. And he actually just mingled with, the program was still going on. And he stood to the back with everybody, with a lot of the other people, and he just stayed and listened to what else was happening, as opposed to just darting out and going to his next event. And I thought that was very, very personable for him to show that, he is really trying to listen to what's going on in the trenches, as opposed to just dictating, or not dictating, that's the wrong word, but promoting what his agenda is. He did talk about his priorities, and I wanted to share those with everyone just so that you got the information that I got. He did open by applauding teachers in the districts for making things happen even in the storm. He spoke about the challenges facing schools today, to include increased class sizes, reductions in our workforce, and many expectations that are required from everyone. He spoke about the fact that California is 47th in the nation for pure people spending, and that education is the #1 priority in the California Constitution, but it doesn't seem we're investing in students. He is supporting the extension of the current taxes to cover education costs, and would like to eventually see guaranteed money from these taxes, especially or specifically go to funding education. He is a transition team that has established a host of innovative ideas that have begun and he's begun to prioritize the education priorities, and he shared those with us. So these are his education priorities: career education and job readiness, STEM education, early childhood education and increased preschool access, extended learning to include after-school and summer school programs, also to include the number of instructional days. He's very concerned about the decrease in instructional days. He named it, or he said, no child left online, and you'll be glad to hear this one, Hilda. Integration of technology into the classrooms, and to provide connections to students after school.
Like no child left off.
Offline, is that what I said? Oh, offline, yeah. No child left offline. Healthy kids and more efforts on nutrition, and He talked about educating the whole child to include arts, music, and drama in addition to the academics. He feels our public education system will come out of this crisis stronger and smarter, and that the team approach will make it happen. And he ended it with, together, everyone accomplishes more, which is his team approach. So I just found it very interesting to hear that from him. I'm sure he's been going all over the state saying the same thing, but I thought I would share that with us. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Meyer.
Thank you. I'd like to echo Chris Thompson's report about the promotions. That they were really fun. I particularly enjoyed Ladera Vista because I had shaken most of their hands 2 years ago when I was in 6th grade at Hermosa, so it was fun to graduate or promote them from 6th grade, then promote them again from 8th grade. We had a really nice celebration for Maple School at the Marriott, honoring them, and then we rushed over to the Teacher of the Year, and Mark and the FIDA put on a really nice celebration that was very efficient this year. Nicely done. Thank you.
That was nice.
Yes.
And
the Fissler celebration and presentation of the plaque was another nicely done, efficient run. The awards assembly at Nicholas, June 15th, was done to the minute. Matt had everything scheduled, 11:01, this person would come, 11:05, this person would come, and it actually happened on time that way. Thank you for the district barbecue. I know Pat and her staff did a great job of putting all the food together. I had to slip out to another meeting, but I did see all the great food and a nice celebration for Gary. Congratulations to the finalists of the Governor's Challenge. I guess they're going to be selected. I don't know how that selection process goes, but it's Fern Drive, Maple, Orangethorpe, Richmond, Rolling Hills Elementary, and I guess they'll be decided come September for that, and kudos to all of them. And I would like to personally say goodbye to Marilyn White. What she's done for the kids and families of Fullerton is amazing, and it's going to be hard to fill her shoes, and whoever comes on board will never have her shoes. And for Gary, it's been kind of really a special time for me with Gary because I sat on the other side of the table from Gary for many years, and now I get to sit next to him, and I hate to see him go. We've had a good time both across the table and next to each other. And I welcome Susan and look forward to working with you. And a happy birthday to the United States next week, and happy 4th of July to everybody.
Trustee, I like that. I want to also extend the welcome to Susan. We're so glad to have you, and I had your husband come out, and I want to tell him he's such a good sport. A Saturday night and a Tuesday night, oh my God, that's amazing. I want to say goodbye to Gary as a friend and a peer, and there's no question that he really probably saved the day for us, and we appreciate that in your wonderful manner. I never knew so much about Abraham Lincoln as I was trying to find ways to trick you. At least I used the internet and looked at it. I have connectivity. And Marilyn, it's not just hard and impossible shoes to follow, but your heart, your concern, your setting in place very specific procedures which really will enable the next person, and that's wonderful. And those children who spent some time back there in the office with you and their parents came out better people, no matter what happens in their life. They are better for being touched by you. I also want to take a moment for the other people, since it's the end of the year. I remember doing this when I first came on board, and I just assumed people did it. I want to thank Janet Moore for all the work and the collaboration and the patience she shows I think not just to me, but to every single person in this city and further out who phones her for her wise input and calm, patient responses and her immediate responses. We really, really are lucky to have you here for your breadth of experience. And Mark, it's been a long, hard year for you, and we are so glad that you are healthy and sitting here at this table with us this year. Don't ever frighten us again. We never want to again have to tell you how much we love you. Just know. Just know. And the wonderful job you do. It's got to be stressful to work at a job where every year we give you more to do with less money. And you're the one who has to be the face, looking at your friends, your peers, your colleagues, and tell them the news. Thank you. Mitch, good job, though. You've done, really, when you think of this year that's just gone by, the very many things you've done, you've even made Chris not be a team member and be a great board member. So that's really good. And it's always a pleasure to work with you. You're a creative mind. You see things with broad insight, and it's a joy. But the one who blends it all together and does the best job of all is Carmen. Carmen, when we got your note this week that said, I can't go to the doctor's because I have to put out Thursday afternoon, I have to post the agenda. I thought, oh Carmen, what have we done to you? You're wonderful, and please give your husband a special thank you tonight because we're all going to be ordering salsa from now on. A great year. Next year will be even better, and we're going to take our children to new heights, especially because as we look at the data, they're starting at a better place. And so we're going to grow them even better for next year. That's it. Your turn, Adam.
Thank you. Wow, big love fest. Thank you.
Happy July 4th.
That's right, don't forget. Happy
4th of July. It's an important
Yes. Any last closing goodbye words from you, Gary, at this moment? Or
We'll bide my time.
Okay, Marilyn, anything? We'll miss you.
Just what a wonderful experience it's been being in Fullerton, and I believe the kids in good hands.
Yes, we appreciate all that both of you have done. We know that you leave us better off than when you arrived. That's all that matters, right? Okay, now, Love Fest is over. No information from PTA. No one's here. No one's here. Theta?
No report.
No report. COCA? FPESMA? Okay. Then on the next item, of course, is always to be reminded that on the internet is our calendar of activities going on. Most important, of course, will be that big welcome back coming up in August, which will not be that long from now. Our minutes from the June 7th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of our June 7th meeting as stand.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any additions, corrections, changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Now, our consent agenda does have one correction, and it is to item 1A, and that is because a name has been added to it, which has to do with a new hire, which will be working in our district office. And yeah, our new director of, not business office, yeah, our new child and welfare director, who we hope has more than one or two pairs of shoes, is going to be Craig Birch.
Craig Birch.
Yes. And we are very excited, based on his resume, to be adding him to our family. He coincidentally has a few kids in the district already, so he is part of the family. We're just giving him more responsibility. So that is a correction to the posted agenda, so 1A does have a correction. And then anybody, if there's anyone that would
There's
like...
only one I really need to pull, I want to pull 1O.
Okay, 1O, it's
Oh
been
my God, me too. How can you always do that?
requested that we pull 1O.
And I have questions about 5 or 6, but I probably won't want to pull any of them.
Okay.
That's how you want to move forward.
Would you like to move to approve consent agenda minus 1O?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I second.
Anybody else would like to comment, question, or anything on consent items 1A through?
I have 2 comments.
Okay.
Comment on 1N. I'd like to compliment Gary and Larry and Laura. I've been out to some of the schools and the carports are fabulous. For the principals that are here that have those, they're wonderful. And they look great, the kids like them, and I know next September they're going to be even better. And then 1W. I know that we've given kudos to all these people who wrote these CTAP grants, but it's come to my attention that when they write these CTAP grants, they go to Ted Lai, and Ted goes through them with a fine-tooth comb, and they don't have muster unless he really reads them through, and he's to be complimented for these people getting them. Okay?
Awesome. Any other questions or comments on our consent agenda?
Thank you to the people who donated, the organizations who donated.
I just want to comment, and Gary got back to me on this, that the annual software maintenance expenses on 1G and 1H for point of purchase inventory management, free and reduced lunch program, scanning, inputting systems and software into these programs struck me as extremely expensive. I randomly Googled the phenomenon of these kinds of softwares and spoke with a gentleman at another company. Bear with me 1 minute, please. Called MCS software. I do know that this MCS software provides the same services for LA Unified, San Diego Unified. They have 6 of the largest school districts in the country. And they provide generally all of the same services. The guy made some good points about that their scanning program is not third-party. Ours is third-party through this Rocket Scan. Let me say, what we use might be better. It might be way better. I don't know. But the annual support, software support fees from this other company were less than half, at $12,000 for a district with 20 schools than what we're paying. So that's just sort of a rhetorical comment. It seems like a very expensive item. I hope we've done the best that we can to identify what is the most value-oriented one out there, but just in my life's experience, when I saw that $24,000 annual software maintenance fee, that sort of blew me away.
That was for last year. The thing is about 17.5% cheaper than 11-12, with 2 extra modules that they did not incorporate last year.
Right. Well, so like I said, there's so much to be gained through efficient management of inventory and food services that it might be worth $50,000, but it was notable to me, and I did a little bit of research, and there are other options out there that are less expensive, but they may not be as good. So anyway, that number jumped out at me. And then I just want to make sure on item 1X for the $2,200 that we are allocating for. Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, for the board workshops. I did forward that email to you, Mitch, again, that had that guy locally. Did we ever call that guy? I sure hope we have specific parliamentary procedure training. Is that the intention?
The purpose of the workshop will be several things. One of them will be talking about parliamentary procedure, but it will also be talking about different work protocols and hiring practices and a lot of things that came up as a result of our discussion.
And is it your intention that these two workshops we talk about the layout of the board table?
We can do that at the same time.
Okay, I just would like to ask that be included in it. And then, I was amazed at the $600 hourly rate for speech bananas.
But I did that.
But no, but it wasn't for,
It's special ed. Speech bananas is special ed.
but it was for, only one of them was
It was the-
but not to exceed 6, language evaluation.
1AA.
1AA. Yeah.
1A, yeah. Does that individual that gets paid $450 an hour?
It's a rate of pay for the consulting services.
And that's the going rate for language evaluation? That's like high-end attorney. Anyway. Have we shopped that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Amazing. I hope we don't have to use a lot of it. If we need to use it, I hope we use it. But
What's in our budget?
and then for one FF, I used to say these questions diminishing over time with me, but I haven't seen a lot of these things. Spanish interpreters, when is it that we have to hire a Spanish interpreter that we just couldn't use somebody in our district that was fluent, bilingual, and fluent? And we would have to shell out $300, $300 a quarter for a half day of Spanish interpreters.
That's not, I don't think that's.
Well, maybe we don't need it, but it's listed on this independent contractor agreement. Do we not need that service? That would be good news.
They try to get interpretation or a translator.
This is speaking language.
Are we ever hiring these $295 to $325 per half day interpreters?
When would you need that?
Anybody that knows the answer?
Yeah, you know the answer to that question.
I'm trying to pull it up.
It's
I'm
one
going to defer to Laura.
Page 194.
It's up.
Page 194.
I got it. Got it.
She's here. Those are their rates. We don't use their Spanish translators. We use their Hmong, their Chinese, their Japanese, but they're just listing their rates. Okay.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Because the others are $395 and $495. Okay, so we don't need Spanish. Okay, so that makes sense. I couldn't understand why we never have to hire anybody. Anyway, that one I
May not use
understand.
any of it this year.
The 1HH, this is obviously the last one. Yeah. Can somebody give me a 30-second summary of that program?
Yeah.
Okay.
20 Tools is what we brought up in the district a few years ago because we didn't have what we call position control, which means basically you could hire someone, put them on payroll, and personnel wouldn't know. Or personnel could hire someone, put them on payroll, and business services might not know. And there is auditing that takes place every year that requires us to have that kind of piece. What we've had in the past is disjointed pieces. Business services had the county, we had a personnel piece, and they did not talk to one another. So about 5 years ago, we purchased this program to link business services and personnel services together. So I can't do something without Gary's okay, Gary can't do something without my okay for cross-referencing. There are other programs out there. The county is doing a modification, a major remodel of their program this year and next year.
Next year, yeah.
And we are going to look at that, determine if in fact it would be beneficial to us to go to that. Again, depending on the cost. There's a lot of training and background pieces as well, but this has worked okay for us at this point in time. It's the first time, literally in this district, we've been on the same program together since its inception.
Does anybody remember, I mean, did we fork out a large chunk of money to buy it and then we're paying this annual fee, or is it you pay just an annual fee to use it?
No, we purchased it originally and then we pay an annual fee.
I'm just blown away by these annual fees.
Yeah.
I would recommend, you know, in my industry that's almost gone now,
people get used to using certain systems and they become popular, and they, you know, and everybody in the industry knows how to use it. And I think frequently there becomes an unreasonably high fear of switching because people are so comfortable with it. But there are paradigm shifts in technology. I mean, you could all of a sudden have somebody come out and say, I'll sell you for $1,500 a piece of software that you never have to pay me a maintenance fee on, and it does the same thing. I'm not saying that's the case for this one, but I hope we're constantly looking hard at the competition with these very expensive softwares.
We could have taken them for 1, 2, or 3 years.
Right.
I opted for one for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, Mrs. Hume is now here.
Yes.
And a year from tonight, you will be talking with her and Mark, or whoever's in his chair, about what they want. So it was a transition bridge year. The other thing is, the county office, when we looked at the BITEC internal controls, my second year here, they were grossly inadequate for what we wanted.
Right.
Many districts across the county used them, but for what we wanted and the expertise of our people, the Smarty has worked better.
You know, and you can't, you know, good systems are worth their weight in gold. You know, I could absolutely see wanting to spend 30 grand on a great one versus 5 on a not great one.
So. I can guarantee you, though, if BITEC has a internal control module, you're going to be glad you had $30,000 to spend. It'll be twice that much.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That answers all of my questions. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions on the consent agenda?
I promise I'll be quick. I also want to comment on one end. We sat here at this board table, it seems like just yesterday, and approved the shade. And remember, I think it was Marlene came up and said, please do this. It's been said before, nothing's been done, and I want to applaud you for having it done and done so quick. So thank you for all those students out there that swelter every day, especially in junior high, and then go back into their classrooms. My school bus, which one was that? I wanted to just comment on the fact that my school bucks, I don't know if you guys have ever had the opportunity to use that with your students, but that's one of the greatest things as a parent, being able to put money into an account and have your student buy their lunch, as opposed to always worrying about them taking their money that day. And I don't know if you can now look and see what they're actually purchasing. I know once we got into high school, you can go online and see how many people they're buying lunch for that day. And I don't know if we've gotten that far in what we offer, but I remember in high school being able to say, so you had a party at lunchtime today? Yeah, someone forgot their money. So that was that. The gifts, I did want to say thank you to the PTAs and our foundations out there that are continually supporting technology and PE, which gets you to your Governor's Challenge. And I want to say especially kudos for some of our staff members. Looks like we have 2 staff members at Parks that just have come forward and donated lots of money towards their programs at their schools that they feel so strongly about. So
somebody's going to try to steal now.
That was just amazing to me. And I believe that's it for right now. So thank you.
Okay, so we have a long consent agenda, items 1A through 1GG. With HH, you're right, HH, with 1A corrected and 1O pulled. It's been moved and seconded to approve those items. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those are all approved. Item 1O is on page 83, if anybody can't find it. Oh, that's the fact on page 2. I would entertain a motion to approve item 1O, which has to do with our organizational membership for 2011-12.
So we need to approve it before we can talk about it?
No, first I believe we cut this last, 2 years ago, right? We cut some of the things out of it.
So
got a lot of things.
there's 2 pages
These are
before.
the things that we found most.
And we, there, and there's nothing there that we can, check out. Oh, except for the needlework.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're gonna have this discussion again. I really feel uncomfortable approving a association or an organizational membership of an organization that I am the president of. You guys don't seem to have a problem with it. I always have a problem with it because I think it's a conflict. Because we're approving to pay an organization that I
Why don't you
operate.
move the list without that?
Yeah.
And then you did separate, then you can abstain on the separate one.
I mean,
I'm not.
yeah, that would make me feel.
Okay.
Can we do that? Or I can abstain from the whole item,
Move
and I don't mind about that.
the list without the needlework.
And then vote on the, it'll make me feel better, guys, thank you. Okay, then I would like to move that we, what do we want to do?
Just move that we approve the list. I'm not probably going to vote for this, but move that we approve the list as shown with the exception of the Needlework Guild that can be moved afterward.
I second that motion.
You second Bev's motion.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a good motion to oppose.
To approve item 1.0 minus the membership in the Needlework Guild, which the rest of us are all members of also, so we probably all should vote.
Yeah, you're a board member.
Yeah.
Would you tell me what EdJoin is?
EdJoin.
EdJoin.
EdJoin is the organization that we use throughout the state of California to post openings and positions of all types, from certificated administrative counselors, everything but classified. Actually, that's not true.
Classified.
You classify it as well. So it's a great tool, and for the cost of advertising, it's darn cheap. Because you're going to pay for an ad in LA Times for 2 days. You're going to pay probably $600, and you can see what the price of this is for as many postings as I wish.
Yeah, what about, we have here, Coalition of Adequate School Housing, and then Coalition of Adequate School Housing Maintenance next. What does that mean?
One is for maintenance, it's for Larry Lara, the other one is an institutional membership in the school housing area. We call that cash. Yeah, thank you. That is a statewide lobbying group, and also make sure that the funding bills that come and the general bond issue statewide are enough to cover school costs. Without that group, I can tell you we would not have had school-wide bond issues, district-wide, statewide.
You know, I would recommend that we continue this. I would like to see a list, like a spreadsheet, that showed a couple of items. Which ones are lobbying organizations, maybe get the link to the organization. Which ones are ones that bring us a direct dollar benefit, where you can absolutely state, like EdJoin, that it would cost us more to do what we have to do without it, that sort of thing. Most of these organizations, I think, are lobbying groups, and I would wager to guess that most of us don't know what the top 5 lobbying focuses are, 2/3 of these groups. Before we vote, we're about to vote on organizations that spend our money lobbying the state legislature probably, and we don't know what their top priorities are. Unless somebody disagrees and you do know what all the priorities are, but that wouldn't be very difficult to prove somebody wrong. Starting with the California School Boards Association, but everybody knows my opinion on that one. I mean, does anybody know?
What the Rotary Club of Fullerton lobbies for? No.
Yeah. Actually, it's amazing you said that, because that's what my eyes fell to, and I thought, well, I can't use that one. Yeah, no.
Or the Needlework Guild.
I think that a lot of these.
Well, like the housing councils.
You know, I mean, do you know what they lobby for? Do you know what kind of taxation policy? Do you know what other organizations they affiliate with? Nobody does. You know, these are lobbying organizations.
But it also provides a service that we use day to day.
And what's your value? You know, is it possible that somebody provides a good service, but their political focuses are so skewed from your own that it's not worthwhile to get behind it?
If you're talking about cash, is that what you're talking about?
That was an example.
Coalition Adequate School.
No, I just there's 37 organizations here, and I would assume it would take 30 hours for somebody that knew very little about most of them. I would fall into that category, to run matrices researching their top 5 political priorities, what they spend their money on, what the benefits they bring to the district are, how often we send people to them, and we're about to drop half of what it takes to hire a reasonably seasoned teacher to join 37 organizations. I'm certain some of them we should absolutely be a part of. Some of them donate money to us, like the Needlework Guild. I'm personally certain that we shouldn't.
And the Rotary.
Right. So I'm certain that some of them we shouldn't belong to, but the broader point is, I would like to see us not so casually join 37 political organizations, or I'm guessing 20 of them are political. I think
Hilda's point was, we have taken this list over the past few years and pared it down with I was assuming the intention that those that are the departments that get them have felt comfortable enough in the fact that they really truly need to be part of an organization.
Do you know?
No, I personally do not.
So I mean, the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, they might have a legislative advocacy law.
And I would hope that they would be then advocating for
strong public schools.
Well, but two well-meaning people might have two very different perspectives about what that means, especially as it pertains to tax dollars, as it pertains to due process for firing bad teachers, as it pertains to, any manner of political questions.
I think we'll always
that's the problem with this education, culture just, they advocate for great schools. Well, it's because everybody agrees on how to get there.
But Chris, as you're looking through this, my political views on what they advocate for might be not in agreement with your political views.
Exactly, but neither one of us know what they are.
But that doesn't make my views any better than your views.
No.
It just makes this organization
What I'm saying
something
is,
that benefits the district.
what I'm saying is you, as an individual, shouldn't vote for 37 organizations that politically lobby when you don't know what they lobby for. That's what I'm saying.
I believe, though, that we have people within our district that are involved in some of these, attend their meetings, go to their trainings, receive their helpful information, and use that to improve the education in our district. And I would imagine, I look at this as probably there is a political aspect to many of these organizations, but there's a larger aspect that's brought back to our district that we receive a huge benefit from that involvement, particularly when it comes to needlework. And that because of that, our students are perceiving in a better place. And I would hope that everybody that's involved, and I mean, look at these departments, there's different departments that use them. Certificated personnel has a different focus. Yes, they do have a different focus, and they will have a different focus than what the board will have, or even business services. And their needs and services are met in a different way. So it's not...
I've said it. I don't think anybody here is denying that most of these organizations have political priorities that they advocate for. I don't think anybody here disagrees that no single person at this table with voting rights can name those priorities for all of these organizations. I would bet nobody at this table can name all those priorities for one of these organizations.
But I would imagine that their top priority is education, and that's what it's about. So.
I could do Lowell Schools. She could do Rotary. I could do California School Board Association, Orange County School Board Association. Can go through here. Association of California School Administrators.
Okay,
just know that hopefully the voters hold everybody responsible for everything that those organizations stand for. If you vote for them.
Fullerton Chamber of Commerce, our superintendent belongs to. It's more money than I pay. How many of us are members?
You can go as a representation for the district.
Oh my goodness, but I've been paying separately.
So that's a great point. When you belong to 37 organizations, it's very difficult to even derive benefit from 37 organizations.
But that's why I said different, they serve different purposes.
Well, they serve the board members, and those have been writing around check for.
That's just one aspect.
Anyway, I made my point. I would consider supporting it if I had a list that included all of the political priorities and how they spend their money on those political priorities for all these organizations, although I would not vote for California School Boards Association no matter what, because I know what their political priorities
Do
are.
you want us to pull that one?
No, because I'm not going to, just so I can have something that I throw out at this meeting that doesn't get seconded, I would move that we continue this list until we can generate.
Oh, wait a minute, you've already made a motion.
No, I'm going to make an alternate, or, a substitute motion. No, a substitute motion. You can make a substitute motion, which if somebody wants to second it, we can vote on whether to do it, but that we continue this and ask staff to get us to matrices that shows us what the political priorities are for all these different organizations and how they spend their money on those priorities.
Can I ask something else?
Yeah.
No, it's
Would you, just a friendly.
Yeah.
Because it's looking for a second. Would it be okay to ask staff just to get back to us and give us the information?
You mean without voting on it?
Oh, but there's only 3 or 4.
It's fine, that would be the same thing.
Not all of them have
Vote on it now and then ask for the information.
Yeah. Okay, he has a motion to amend it and say that we will not approve this.
I'm moving that we continue it. The substitute motion to continue it and ask for more information.
Oh, I'll second for you.
Oh, good. Are you going to vote for it?
It's moved in second to continue this until there's more detail of the actual political activities of each of these organizations. And it's been moved in second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No. Oh, it didn't pass.
It didn't pass.
Now,
But I supported it.
based on Robert's rules of order, that was an amended motion. Do we
So now
go?
we go back to the original.
But the original motion was to approve it, but that was amended. Do we need another motion? Because we all approved, you approved the amended motion.
There should be one without O,
Without
and one with it.
Without Needlework Guild. Okay, those in favor then approving item 1O minus Needlework Guild of America. Did we get a second on that?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving item 1O per the list, say, with minus Needlework Guild, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so 4-1 on 1O. Now, Bev, you're going to abstain. Would someone else like to make a motion?
I move that we join the Needlework Guild.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All of those of us that are members of Needlework Guild that would like to vote for our membership in Needlework Guild, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
The president will abstain.
The president of Needlework Guild, not board.
He's got the money from all of us already.
It's 4-0, 1 abstention. Okay, moving on. So complicated. So item 2A. Before we move to 2A, we are going to open our public hearing. So I now declare a public hearing at 8:15 to allow for public comments regarding the 2011-2012 proposed budget. All funds in the use of categorical flexibility funds as required by the Budget Act of 2009.
What we're going to do is we're going to start with a presentation by Dr. Cardinale, and then it will allow for people to see what the presentation is, and then public comments. So Dr. Cardinale, you'll do your presentation.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
We just went into public
Oh.
Public
hearing.
Okay. Several people mentioned we started drinking water.
Don't do it.
If ever there was a budget year, it's a mess in Sacramento, this one would qualify for the honor program. At 8:30 today, I found articles on the internet that said by 3 o'clock this afternoon we would have a new state budget. We watched all day, and we watched till 4 o'clock until we had to defer to this meeting. And Carlene, do you by chance know, did the governor sign that budget?
I was checking, if you saw me on my phone, I apologize during the meeting. I was checking, that's why I was checking. I saw an email came at 7:15 from CASBO, which is one of the organizations that was up there. And they hadn't gone for a vote yet. They were still expecting to go tonight. And it was because, according to the email I got, that they were still making changes on some of the provisions.
Okay.
But it was still expected for tonight. A vote was expected.
One of the things we're going to look at is the assumption that that budget is going to pass with what we knew about it today at 4 o'clock. So we are going to show you some rather draconian ideas that are being considered in Sacramento and may come out this night as being the new law of the state of California. Never does a department do well without an outstanding supportive cast. And I owe 4 people a tremendous gratitude regarding their preparation of not only the document that you are watching, but the documents that are in front of you, the SACS code. Steve Miller, who has been a substitute for us for the last month. Becky Silva, who you know is our Assistant Director of Fiscal. My Executive Secretary, Berryman Serrano. None of us would be here tonight if she hadn't stayed till 6 o'clock every night for the last week and a half to get this thing done. And our departed Business Services Director, Sue, who has made some interesting comments about the place she's gone compared to Fullerton. I had a dream last night. I dreamt I died and went to heaven, but the light in the tunnel was turned off due to budget cuts. We are to a point where we have had to move ahead and go through a procedural exercise so that you had something to vote on, so that the county office approves this budget and does not withhold the apportionment and literally shut us down. We are going to ask you to approve a budget tonight, which is probably the most fluid document that I've looked at in the last 40 years in this profession. You will see several of these things which were used in the third interview. But of the important ideas that I want you to look at the COLAs that they have built in on the school services dartboard for 11-12 and 12-13. On paper, this is a great thing. Hey, we're going to get a COLA. But look at the deficit factor. It's almost 20%. Meaning for every $100 that we collect either through local property taxes or state aid, we're going to be shorted 20 of those $100. The other thing that this does is we have taken the $330 per ADA out of this budget and placed it in a reserve at the recommendation of both school services and the county office to make sure that we are still solvent if the state takes this away. If you'd asked me a week ago, are we going to get this, I would have bet, I don't bet on anything, but I would have bet on that. Tonight, I am as indefinite as the wet pasta. You cannot ever understand whether you're going to get this or not until they actually sign that document. Third, our ADA has come in very strong. We can add 48 kids We are growing a little bit, but as we go out, we are not counting on any more growth. We are being as conservative as we can because we have several times during the budget year, including the revised budget, first and second interim, and even closing next year, where we can add kids if they come. It is much easier to start with a zero expectation as far as growth goes, budget accordingly, and if the kids come, it's a wonderful bonus like it was this year. Also, our attendance. I've shared this story before that when I was assistant superintendent in an elementary, in a unified district, the auditors told me, gee, 92.2% of your attendance to CBED is wonderful. I looked at that auditor and I had a different opinion, which I didn't say because I didn't want an audit exception. But at the same time, when you look at this, 97.2 district-wide, and we have maintained that just about every year. A couple of years we've been higher than that. 1 year we were over 98. That says great things about our community, our programs, and people in the classroom making those kids want to come to school. A question was asked by one of the board members on an email this week about what are we assuming our health and welfare increases are going to be. We have built in a 6% inflation factor each year. Whether they come in higher or lower, we don't know. And the question was also asked, what part would the district cover and what part would the individual cover? That is still subject to negotiations, and until we have a signed and sealed and approved agreement by the associations, we don't know exactly what that portion will be. If you look at revenues, you have seen these numbers before as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago. We now have a proposed budget for next year, and several interesting things have happened. We have rolled in, under the federal dollars for a program next year, most, if not all, of the jobs money. There's $2.44 million included in that increase. The state, we have an increased funding because of the professional development grant carryover. We also have some local changes, a little bit of decrease in donations. Now that doesn't mean that our donations have fallen off. We project these dollars based on what we received earlier in the year. Usually at the adopted budget, and certainly when we do the year-end close, this number is usually lower than this because we book this as it comes in, and we now see that we're going to be down about $300,000 from where we projected at third interim. And down here, which is a big factor in the approval of this budget, we have transfers in from Fund 17, which is a special reserve, our capital facilities fund of Fund 40 in the tune of $1.6 million. So as a result, you see a 4% increase in revenue from the third interim, which was several weeks ago, due largely to transfers in and the jobs money.
Now, wait a minute. On the page before, you've got a zero down for lottery.
Go ahead.
They collect the lottery. Don't they by law have to give some?
We here have lottery, but it's here. This is the unrestricted portion. That's the heading. This is the amount we would get for discretionary use. This is the Prop 20, which must be spent on instructional services.
Okay, but lottery, isn't it restricted, nothing that breathes?
No. Most of the lottery is unrestricted money, and we can use it for anything.
Okay.
Prop 20, which was approved several years ago, sets aside 20% of what we are to get, and it must go to educational materials and supplies.
Thank you.
Our expenditures. We have actually budgeted for the possibility of a salary decrease in the proposed budget. The third interim, we thought that we would be here with expenditures, but after looking at where we have come in, we are going to have to make some further cuts in order to make our 3% next year. So, accordingly, we have asked that we at least put in the assumption that this will happen. If this fails, we have two other scenarios in line to fill that gap, and you'll see them both in slides to come.
Gary, can you explain that again? Are you saying your budget is based upon a salary decrease?
We are saying that we have budgeted with the idea that it has to be negotiated for salary cuts in 11-12. And if that does not come to fruition, in other words, we don't agree on a successor agreement that actually reduces salaries by approximately 3%, we have two other scenarios where we could move money in and out, and I'll show you those in a couple
This
minutes.
thing says we're based upon our cutting salaries 3% next year.
This is yes. Now you'll notice that overall certificated unit salary spending is set to go up about 6.3% if you look at the summary pages on the SACS form. And the reasons for that are we are growing, and we have 8 teachers, which we are bringing in, 6 in regular ed for growth and 2 in special ed. And as a result of those, plus the fact that we do not have a successor agreement, salaries go back to the 08-09 levels and will stay there until they are negotiated. But we have budgeted this to cause concern for the reality that we do need to make some cuts. All right, if you look at the overall general recap, what do you see? Since third interim, we have added about almost $4 million in revenue, and we have also had to add some in expenses, even though we have cut some. But the thing I want to call your attention to is this line. This is your deficit financing line. The third interim, we said that we'd be out of balance next year by $5 million. And now it looks like we're going to be out of balance about $6.1 million. We are going to have to cut some additional amounts. Target now is about $7.6 million, and we have some programs that we'll show you in a second to get there. In fact, you already worked through one at the March 23rd meeting, which I will show you here to recap that. But we do have to make some cuts based on the difference of these deficit factors. And deficits are what is going to hurt us the same as they are the state and the Fed in the long run. If you look at the components of the ending balance, this is the first place, and logically so, that the associations go to where they say you are hiding money. Well, we're not hiding anything. We have put it out here for everybody to see, and let me take you through this. Several things can be noticed here. The amount in the ending balance and the various components of it at third interim versus now. We have explained away some of those issues, but let's go and delve into them a little more. We have restricted dollars that are non-sweepable, therefore we cannot take them. So we have included that $1.49 million as a reserve in our ending balance to protect programs. The revolving cash in stores and prepaid expenses, that is something we do every year at this time. We pay, excuse me a second, we pay for our insurance, we pay for our stores inventory, which is in the warehouse, and we pay for prepaid expenses like field trips and other commitments we need to make so that in the early months of the school year, the machine continues to run. Now, Chris?
This restricted carryover of non-sweepable categoricals, that was or is currently a reserve of some sort?
It is a reserve in the ending balance, and those programs are things like EIA, QEIA, medical billing, and there's a couple others. But those are non-sweepable, And that balance will be carried over into the next year.
To use in the next year.
To use in the next year, correct.
So you're not, so you are talking about spending reserves versus keeping them in reserves.
There's a difference between spending a carryover and spending a reserve.
Yes.
We have put the carryover in reserve so that we can protect it for next year, but the assumption is, yes, we are going to use this.
But part of our revenues.
Excuse me. We are going to use this in program expectations next year. But this does show as a revenue component of our ending balance, which comes down here, and you can see that it is about $2.3 million more than it was in third interim. If you move down, you can also see we have reserved the amount of money for the supplemental early retirement program. We have reserved the entire payment amount for the 5 years in the ending balance so that everybody can see the amount of money that goes to that every year. We have also reserved for growth teachers. Do I think we will have more growth teachers? If I talk to our principals, they sure do. And they're scrambling to get furniture. We're scrambling to realign classrooms. And it is always better to have a reserve in the ending balance in case you grow in the fall and you need some teachers. Rather than pulling it out of program, you simply tap this ending balance component of the reserve for full-time equivalent teachers. And if that does not happen midway through the year, you can always release this and put it back into the general fund. There are some other categoricals. These are called assigned categoricals. They also have carryover. And you can see them here. They are local grants, safety money, SOAR, SLIP, which we call school library and improvement dollars. There's about $720,000 in carryover in those which will be put in there for next year. Now, the state has a requirement for a district our size, and it's based strictly on attendance. Districts our size must keep a 3% reserve designated for uncertainties. And at the third interim, we were pretty doggone close. We said it was going to be 3.03%. Well, we have budgeted as low as we can possibly go and still maintain solvency. We have said that this will be a 3% reserve in the general fund, but remember, you've got the special reserve fund 17. You've got almost $4 million in that. Once we are through drawing it down through the year-end close, there'll be about $3.6 million in there. That is the mandated cost category. We have put that money in there in case of emergencies. We will have an information item later, which we will ask you to approve for inter-fund borrowing from the other funds, such as 40, 21, 25, and some of the others, in case we get hit with what I think is going to be a massive cash flow issue next year if the governor signs the budget that was on the table this morning. The deferral has gone way up. And so we are going to ask you in a few minutes to approve a resolution so that we can borrow from ourselves to make payroll. Anytime we do that borrowing, we have to refund it 120 days before the end of the fiscal year in 11-12. Yes?
I have to admit ignorance here. Something I'm not following. Our reserves that we would have a choice to keep in reserve being used as a part of our regular revenue in 10-11 in this budget. Are we choosing to draw down existing reserves?
We are going to present you with scenarios that show that possibility if needed. That is a resource for you to use if Mrs. Hume, when she gets here, determines, with the help of the county office, that those are going to be necessary. But as I stand here tonight, and as I studied the budget most of the day that the governor was supposed to sign today, I don't think I'm going to be too far off in predicting that you're going to need that interfund borrowing for cash flow. And you'll see why in just a couple of minutes.
That's different than the question of are we going to plan on spending reserves?
If you do not get the salary concessions, and if the $330 per child, which is $4.4 million, goes away, then yes, you're going to have to spend reserves.
If we don't get a concession, yeah.
Okay. The budget adjustments that use some of the resources at our disposal. This is the work session that we had as a board and cabinet in March, where we agreed on the spirit of how to reach the $7.7 million cut figure. Now, as you look up here, you remember that we included the jobs money. There was good agreement on that. We were going to swap some instructional money with lottery. We agreed to do that. Fund 17, if needed, that's a special reserve. We could bring in as much as $761,000. We could bring in as much as $3,600,000. We don't want to. If we have to touch these reserves, we want to be able to amortize them over the years so that they last us a while. Fund 20, that's our other post-employment benefits. We could tap that for $580,000. We had talked about that as a group. Fund 40, which is the reserve for capital outlay, we had agreed that we could tap that for $300,000. The general fund fallout, which means that is money that has rolled into the ending balance at the end of the year, that was unrestricted money that we did not spend. We typically average about $400,000 a year in that category. That will not be known until the middle of August when we close the books, but that's a pretty good guesstimate. Also, our special ed encroachment was vastly reduced this year. If anybody should get credit for a job well done and win the hearts and wear the crown queen for a day, it should be Laura, and all the issues that she did here by reducing that. Now, that took a commitment on your part to start autistic programs, to bring back occupational therapy, and to start several different programs that we were spending big-time dollars to go outside the district for those services. Now, we are bringing those services back. Will this stay next year? I don't believe it will, because you will be having to pay salaries for those people who are running those programs, and the teachers, speech pathologists, and so forth that will be on site. But it is a lot cheaper, and it is a lot better for kids, in my experience, both as a teacher and site administrator and curriculum administrator at the district office, than it is to farm those kids out to a non-public agency where they're getting paid a fee and they don't necessarily know our kids. We have a professional development grant, the carryover, which we could tap for $592,000. We also had another category of added full-time equivalents for projected growth enrollment. Well, we are not projecting any growth enrollment for next year. We have some this year. Like we told you, we have two mechanisms put in place to protect us. This is one, which is a reduction. The other one is the $450,000 we have as a line item in the components of the ending balance. And we do need...
So we have a total of $884,000.
We have reduced this here. This is a paper move. We have reduced this. If we grow next year, you're going to be bringing that reserve in that we have in the components of the ending balance of $450,000. And you'll notice it almost balances dollar for dollar. And we do need some concessions. If all of this is done, we still need a concession of about $1.3 million. Now, we've looked at that $1.3 million several ways. It could be a 3% salary cut. It could be additional furlough days, all of which may become mute very quickly as I show you what the projections are for the state budget. Now, this is kind of where we are. This is a jury trial. And it says, we may have been a hung jury for 3 weeks, but I did get a chance to sell 11 magazine subscriptions for my kids' school field trip fund. All right, as part of the public hearing which you have opened, we have flexibility. And I have enjoyed bringing Mrs. Maury grief over these, because she throws her body across these funds and says, no, you can't take them. And I say, yes, legally we can. And then she makes a comment to me, and I make one to her, and it sits and laughs. Well, here is the list. The law requires that the public be given notice at a meeting, and we do it with the budget, to show what these programs are by name, by purpose, and projected or estimated amount that we will receive next year. These are called Tier 3 flexibility funds. Now, does that mean we're going to raid all of these and take all that $6 million? By law, we can't. We do not have a specific amount yet, because we don't know how much we're going to need. But this is another resource for you to think about. Now, if you are a proponent of GATE education, gifted and talented education, and a couple of you have said to me, I don't want you to sweep that money because I want it to go to the GATE program. Notice what the proposed, keyword proposed, use is to continue to support the GATE program. But if we end up having the rug pulled out from under us by actions in Sacramento, can we take that? We can take most of it. And the whole list works that way. We have been through some pretty tough times in the last 4 years, and I don't have to tell you because you're the policymakers of what we've gone through. But never have we swept all of this. It is a tool, a resource for you to use, as are interfund borrowing and interfund transfers. You can also go out for a tax revenue anticipation note for cash flow needs, which we don't have any idea yet whether we're going to have to or not. That's why I say it's really frustrating to put in a full year work and stand here 2 days before the end of the fiscal year and say, we really don't know what they're going to do for us, or to us, or with us. But this, again, is the basis of a public hearing, which we will ask you to approve in a few moments. These are the Tier 3 flexible dollars. They total $6 million.
Gary, sorry. Can you go back?
Yeah.
Thanks. Like, for example, oral health assessment, but the proposed use is general education, educational purpose. Basically, this is a cash flow mechanism that you're proposing?
No, these are actually funds that we are going to get to fund those programs. We will use these monies for these points if we don't sweep them for something else. Either way, they will be spent, either to support these programs or to be swept into the general fund to augment the unrestricted dollars.
So the only reason you're listing these programs is because these happen to be Tier 3s that you're allowed.
That is correct. That is correct.
And we have to adopt a resolution to possibly use these to balance the checkbook, because mostly it's going to be more of a checkbook issue than a budget issue.
This is like if you had a food allowance that was available at the end of the month, and you decided, oh, I need to go have golf lessons, and I'm going to use that carryover from the food allowance. I've swept that money. It's the same analogy that we would use here. I don't see that we will have to use all of this. I think we would have some pretty draconian actions elsewhere in the budget before we cut all those programs, because it's been the policy of this board not to eliminate any program. It's been to alter or to rearrange and adjust. It has not been to eliminate.
See, he learned.
And when that comes together in the middle of the night and the light is turned off in the tunnel, I had Hilda's voice echoing in my ear.
Program. Wait a minute, you have staff administrator training, which we know is important, and there's zero income that we get for it, so why is it listed?
It is still a program that is on the books and is legally part of the flexibility. Whether they choose to fund that next year, anybody knows.
So,
If you were a state legislature or you were a kid in our community, what would you do with your summer vacation? Well, if you were a kid, you'd go catch butterflies. You'd squirt your little brother in the wading pool with a squirt gun. You'd even take a bike ride. But if you're a state legislator, you're going to spend it in Budget 101 in a math camp. All right, now, this is where it gets dicey. When we sat together as a group and put this together this afternoon, we were watching the clock because they were supposed to have a 3 o'clock news conference at which Governor Brown was supposed to announce that they had signed the budget. That did not happen. We use this, and we use this word tentative in great, great earnest because as of this morning, and we read CASBO, we read School Services, we read Kevin Gordon's group, we read the LA Times, we read the Register, we read the Sacramento Bee, and anything else that we could get our hands on online that addressed the fact that the majority vote was about to take place approving a budget that no Republicans voted in favor of. Now you remember, under proposition which was passed by the voters last year, that a majority vote is all that it takes now to approve a budget. But there is a very important, very subtle piece of that vote that has gone by the wayside in the opinion of many who watch legal things regarding schools. It's called Prop 98. In the budget that they vetoed, the governor vetoed on June the 16th, they suspended Prop 98 by a majority vote. Most of us still think that 2/3 majority is still required of the legislature to be able to do that. So if they vote to undo this with a majority vote, there will be lawyers lined up in every one of the 58 counties to file lawsuits on behalf of education because of the suspension of Prop 98 with a less than statutory required majority. One thing is for sure, if this budget goes through, the tax extensions are dead. There will be no special elections. He could not get the support of the Republicans, and he needed 2 on each side, the Assembly and the Senate, so that the taxes are DOA, dead on arrival. This is where I really have a problem. And I'm going to be sarcastic here when I get down here. This assumes that the revenue trends of the last 2 months will continue. In May and June, the state has collected $1.2 billion in income, more than were projected for that period of time by the governor's original projections. They are assuming that that will continue to the tone of bringing an additional $4 billion of revenue into the state coffers. Now, that has changed since the May revise. Now, just let me ask you an introspective question. I'll ask it of everybody in the room, including those that are going to fly away to God's country tomorrow, Alaska. She knew I was going to get to her sooner. How many of you are more optimistic about our economic future today than you were 6 weeks ago?
Not based
but the state is. That goes in direct opposites of the evidence which was released by the conference board this morning on consumer confidence. In the month of May, the consumer confidence, according to the conference board, was at a scale of 61 out of 100. For June, it dropped 3%, or 3 points to 58 points. What is the scale, or what is the measurement that the conference board applies to consumer confidence when they are feeling good about things in good economic times?
Purchasing.
The management of the number is 90. The consumer confidence level in June is 58. How in the world can anyone in their right mind assume that we are going to get another $4 billion when consumer confidence, that usually comes out of a calculation at the University of Michigan, stands there and says, hey, we're at half the level we need to feel good about this percent. So if I got your attention, that's a good thing. If I didn't, I guess I can walk by and tweak an ear, the way we used to be able to do when we started teaching 150 years ago.
Speak for yourself.
Yes, you're not as old as I am. If this budget goes through, they will be kicking a $5 billion structural deficit down the road for another year. Every newspaper report that we read this morning used the word that Brown swore he wasn't going to do. No gimmicks and no slick accounting moves. What's that? If you buy on Amazon, if you buy on the internet, your sales tax-free days are over. They are going to start charging sales tax on internet transactions. They think it's going to raise $200 million the first year. I don't care if you drive a brand new Mercedes or a junker. You're going to pay $12 a year more in vehicle license fee if this budget goes through. Of all of the things we've talked about, with the budget optimism of an additional $4 billion, this much, even with that money, is going to happen. The budget deferral for education was $2.1 billion, and I've mentioned that to you ad nauseum over the last 3 months. It will now be $2.8 billion. And what does it mean? Those are cuts going to go straight at education, including $150 million for CSU and UC reductions. Now that is huge. That is cash flow. That is where your interfund borrowing comes from. That is where your trans comes from. That is why you have reserves if you need to use them. Now, if the $4.4 billion doesn't happen, it triggers several pieces of consequences, several pieces of draconian consequences. In January, there will be a $1.5 additional billion reduction to education. That is in the budget program. Now, I know several of you will love this next one. School districts, at least unless it was changed today, can unilaterally impose another cut of 7 student days in addition to what we already have. This could mean that come next spring, you may be looking at 168 student attendance days. It will be an additional, in terms of cuts to CSU and UC. I told you that the budget provided for $150 million of cuts with each system. If the $4 billion doesn't happen, it'll be another $100 million or $250 million cut to each system. Now, as you look ahead, and as you think about things, this is a little kid, he's got the backpack on, he's coming home. It says, I'm home early. Due to budget cuts, the school district is laying off students. All right, there are some considerations, and I made them as general as I could for a lot of reasons. We really need to monitor the budget and the trailer bills. After several years in this profession, I don't know that it's ever been more important to do that than now.
What do you mean trailer bills, right?
When a budget passes, they'll pass a spending package. And usually there's upwards of 20 pieces of legislation following it that put in the regulations to how to do it. And so the trailer bills, when they say the devil is in the details, that is really true of that. I am extremely fond of our associations, all three groups. Never have I felt stronger about my relationship with those three groups than I do in this district. But I am sending a note of caution, or firing over the bow, or whatever you want to call it. We need to exercise extreme caution in negotiations. And then we need to figure out, this would be an interesting job for the Budget Advisory Committee in the fall and winter of next year, how to implement the ramifications if the $4 billion do not materialize.
When you say exercise extreme caution, you mean be cautious about giving away money?
I mean be cautious about everything we do, from contingency language to instructional days, to furlough days, to concessions on both groups. This is addressed to both groups. If ever there was a time where district and the associations had to pull together, it is now. Because, quote, we ain't seen nothing yet. Because I don't think that's going to happen.
There's no way.
Well, there is a way.
That's all.
But I wouldn't bet on it.
Has Susan already signed the contract?
Yes. I have got her locked in, chains are on the desk, ready to be implemented, and she will be here on Wednesday. We will starve her on Friday. She will ask for food on Friday, her last day, and then she'll be gone for 2 weeks. All right, on a personal note, I have been blessed by God Almighty to serve in this school district. To me, it has always been about relationships. And because of that, I want to extend a sincere thanks and gratitude to some people. First of all, our board. 2 members of which chose not to run for re-election, but I worked with Meyer when I was a curriculum coordinator on the Orange County Department of Education payroll 25 years ago.
Of course you did. Of course.
That's when he was principal at Richmond. Oh yeah, he remembered me.
Did he hire you?
No.
Oh.
We came in to do some research on effective schools. Some board members here probably weren't alive when we did this, but as far as boardsmanship goes and knowledge of overall programs and relationships, this board is top-notch, and I'm grateful to you. The cabinet. This guy had the stupidity and ignorance to hire me, and he said, I want to work with you. I thought, what have you been drinking or smoking? It has been an association unlike any I've ever had. To have a superintendent with the same belief systems, to have a superintendent who is committed to people, to have a superintendent who I know has my back and says, do it. Worry about the consequences later, do it, I believe in you, is uncommon in my experience. I have had others that have asked me to fraudularize budgets up to $1 million. which I refused to do. I was never asked to do that here. In fact, I was asked to be honest, transparent, and open. Those of you who know me and know me well know that I don't let a whole lot of people close. But it's always about relationships. Mr. Douglas,
Yep, your name.
I don't know. There's all kinds of things I can say to get at Mark, but the biggest thing I want to say is thanks. It really ticked me off when you got a heart attack, because that means you didn't take care of yourself. And I had that conversation with another person in this meeting earlier tonight. One of the reasons I am retiring is because a tremendous amount of sadness has come into my personal life lately. Friends between 60 and 65 are no longer with us. People who departed much too early. And they did nothing but work, and some of them did not know their kids, and we've always been friendly with them, but I would much rather have the friendship than to be asked to help take care of a widow. And Janet Morgan, I don't think I have ever had a colleague as assistant superintendent who was a bigger pain because she knew what budgets were about. There is nothing we could slide by her. She had seen it all. She made all of the excuses when she was in prior districts, and more often than not, she just laughed at me and say, "No, you don't." But as far as a curriculum administrator, and I've worked with some really, really good ones, she is by far and away the best. And board, I can say this now because I can get away with it. You've got a great thing going. Don't let people screw this up. All the staffs, from principals that are here, Marilyn, I'm going to miss you tremendously. Susan, I will. Again, as a director of curriculum, never have I had anybody who understood the budgets better than Sue Albano. First year was rather interesting, but then I found out that she was a Trojan and everything got then the business division. We've had a lot of transition there. Some necessary, some very sad. But I can honestly say, and I have told Susan and Steve this, that they are coming into an outstanding gig. You as a board allowed us to do an awful lot of heavy and controversial lifting. And it was done with the support of the board and the cabinet. And I think they are better off today because you gave us the rein to do what we needed to do. And a longtime friend and colleague, I specifically requested Carlene as our financial advisor when we filed our first qualified a couple years ago. I had been a CBO in Orange County before when Carlene was CBO down in, some people call it paradise, I call it paralysis by analysis, a place called Capistrano.
Oh, yeah.
I watched her operate. She was president of CASBO. She worked with the governor, and she negotiated some things in court which are still legendary. But nobody better. She's been in our corner every step of the way. And I can tell you that you are better off financially today than you were 4 years ago. And the community. What's there to say about the community? This is the only time I have ever been told in all my years, you better know how much a square of toilet paper costs before you ask me for 1 nickel. That is the mentality that some people have in this community. And we are now going single ply with toilet paper because we know how much it costs. We came with 3 goals. To do our best each and every day, to be guided by principles, not circumstances, and to leave the district in a better shape than when we got here. On a personal level, Godspeed to you all.
So this is a chance for the public to make comments on, mostly on that resolution that has to do with possibly moving some categorical flexibility funds. Hearing no comments, or if there are no additional comments, I now declare the public hearing closed at 9:05. So now we move to action items, and the first action item is 2A, which is to adopt resolution 1112, that's we're just saying, 01, to approve the use of categorical flexibility funds as required by the Budget Act of 2009. And that is that list that we talked about, presented earlier. Is there a motion that would allow, if need be, that some of these funds could be used to help pay the bills?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any further discussion?
It saddens me that we have to do that.
We may have to. We may not have to.
It is one of many resources available to you. We are asking you to give us a full quiver of resources so that we can tackle this practice.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that one carried by vote. 2B has to do with approving a little thing called the budget for 2011-12.
I like the new format.
Entertain a motion and approve our budget.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Any more comments?
Yeah, I just want to confirm. I think I'm mostly clear, but what's most important to me is the treatment in this budget. Understanding this probably will not be the budget, but I'm not going to pass it if it's a budget that I wouldn't live with. So that this budget is currently making an assumption of a 3% reduction in salary and benefit costs in whatever manner.
That is there.
In whatever manner that we may do that. It's irrelevant as to whether those are furlough days or salary cuts. It's irrelevant.
Correct.
Just because it's just a budget. And what was the assumption with healthcare?
6% a year, which is the figure we've used for years here.
Which is probably low.
The way we do it, because it's a calendar year,
yeah,
we have a shot at that twice a year. If it's more than the 6%, we'll raise it. If it's less than 6%, we'll put that back into the general fund. Because it's a calendar year, it goes January to December. Fiscal year, it goes June or July 1st to June 30th.
Here's the part I'm not getting, and I think it's my fault that I'm not getting it, but as you know that I'm opposed to budgeting the expenditure of reserves. Are we budgeting the expenditure of reserves in this budget?
Yes.
And in order to avoid that, really the only mechanism that would be at our disposal would be to recommend an even deeper cut in salaries and benefits.
That is one. You do have a program, you can cut program, you can stop services.
Right.
You can you can roll things back. Freeze step and column, for example, would save you a lot of money.
Right.
Freeze people and their longevity, which I don't recommend you do because it's
Right.
a vested interest. But the point is, there are 3 or 4 things built into this budget.
Right.
There are interfund transfers in there, and we showed you the budget that we all agreed to on March the 23rd. There are some interfund transfers there. There are some reserves set aside. There are some reserves to be utilized in that budget to cut the $7.7 million.
Right. So in a hypothetical, if the whole board said, no, we're not going to pass this budget, we don't want to use any reserves, what would you do?
First of all, I'd call the county office tomorrow and say, thank you for withholding all our apportionments. They will shut us down. They will not allow us to spend a penny until we have a balanced budget that we can support and submit.
Well, assuming the board said to you, let's get this done, let's redo whatever it is that you need to redo to eliminate the use of reserves in this budget, what would you do?
Same thing as we just did. We proposed a spending program, knowing that it was procedural, and that there is no way, given what we went through here, what we saw today, that that budget is going to come to you the way it is.
Right.
It's either going to be flat funded, or it's going to be draconian, or it's going to be somewhere in between.
Well, it could come to us the way that it could come to us. We could pass this. They could pass the budget that they proposed yesterday, and this is the budget that we would live with.
No. We have a requirement based on AB 1200 to within 45 days take the new budget data and bring to you something we call either a 45-day update or a revised budget.
Right, but to pass this, and I'm not trying to persuade anybody, I'm just trying to get clear myself. To pass this would be to essentially state an openness to the use of reserves in order to make the budget work.
The financial plan that we have given you tonight requires that procedure.
But we've been doing that. That has been the process to use reserves. But see, the
well, that's different than the flexibility fund.
No, we've been reducing our fund balance and for
Right.
years. It was like $10 or $12 million.
This budget's going to require both.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
plus some concessions.
Yeah. Okay.
But the one issue too with school funding is not so much the reduction of reserves, it's that we're already reduced in our revenue by the deferrals that exist on our books.
Right.
Our books already are down, and these books are kind of, they're not really tied to the bank account. I mean, and that's a whole nother issue. Right. Our bigger issue is the cash flow that isn't really our reserve money. Well, it's our cash flow. And so when you say reserves, it isn't like we have this little bank vaults that has money we're going to go pull out.
It actually is like that. We have two different major pieces going on, as I understand it. We have this, we just passed giving the business partner full quiver of tools to be able to meet our cash flow obligations by moving money around if necessary. That's kind of what I think you're referring to. But in order to spend...
No, it's beyond just that.
But in order to meet our spending obligations for the year that we are projecting, which we all acknowledge are probably wrong, this document plans on bringing down balances of reserves. So it is like going to the bank and taking some savings and spending.
True, but we don't have a savings. I mean, it's a fund that exists on our books.
It's money. It's reserve. It's a real resource that's worth money that we are planning on spending. It is in fact exactly like going to the bank and taking out money.
If the bank gives it to you, and the state defers though. So
right.
The bank
It's a horrible situation. It's just and I'm all ears. I really am all ears. This is a very complex situation. It is just my opinion that Gary is absolutely right that we ain't seen nothing yet with respect to where this economy is going to go. I don't know how to explain the $1.2 billion increase in B&G revenues. My guess is that there will be some unique phenomenon that occurred that's, just something weird happened with collections or something. I don't know. I don't think they know. But in my opinion, radical solutions are going to have to be undertaken. In my view, the first place I'm going to look for all of the reasons I've blogged, spoken about, campaigned on, I'm going to look at salaries and benefits first. So I'm open to having my mind changed, but I think I am going to vote no because I do not want to vote on a budget that I'm impressed that we're planning on reducing salaries and benefits 3% in this budget, but that's only planning on reducing it 3% rather than taking essentially all that we need from salaries and benefits versus from reserves. I don't want to take, we will need those reserves. People have argued that we need them now, but you move to a condo, it's not enough. You move to an apartment, it's not enough. You move to a studio apartment. I mean, that's the boat that we're in. So unless I've got something wrong, or somebody wants to take a crack at changing my mind, I'm not going to support it because of that reserve component. I'm not going to bother making a recommendation that has them come back to change it because I know I have no chance of winning that.
I would invite you to talk to either, when the budget passes, either myself or Mrs. Hume about several pieces of this. First of all, what's going to happen to the $330 a kid? That's $4.4 million that we may or may not get. If you put that against some of the other interfund transfers, then you're not going to have some problems with touching those reserves. But tonight, we don't know what's going to happen there. Secondly, if the economy swings at all, and this trend of revenue continues, that could happen. But in the law,
you mean the upward trend?
Yes, but in the law, the way it is written, all deficits to revenue limits and all those that are being compiled over these many years must be repaid in full at some point in time. At some point in time, there are going to be funds to repay approximately $11 billion in money owed to various school districts.
Well, you and I may disagree on this.
However,
but that may not happen.
However, it's law now, but they don't have the money now.
Yeah.
Thus the deferral.
But there was law for special ed, and they made everybody accept something less.
See, that's the difference between federal legislation, PL 94-142, which was passed in 1979, and state law. Federal law, they don't touch the local level. They just send you a check or send you a letter. The state touches us because you and you and you all pay property taxes. And what you don't make up in property taxes based on Proposition 13, which was in 1978, the state must make up in state aid. That is the law. And when I pointed out earlier that Carlene had been involved in a landmark negotiations in Sacramento with the governor several years ago, the governor agreed to a deal, and everybody celebrated, and what did he do? He backed out, and he didn't have any opposition. We need to get back to at least a two-party, if not a three-party system. Right now, we have one party at the national level, we have one party at the state level, and the other ones are not playing the ball. And as a result, majorities have become minorities, and two-thirds has become a majority. And so decisions are being passed, which are only going to be settled in the court. Our goal tonight, our call tonight, our charge tonight, is to pass a spending program, knowing it's going to be adopted again and changed within the next 45 days from when they sign.
Well, I understand it, but our call is to do that. My call, though, is to do that. And I hugely respect what you've done. And you know, I'm impressed. I just would, you know, I would just prefer that it said, and I don't know if these numbers are right, that it assumes a 7% reduction in salaries and benefits and no usage of reserves. And I know it's going to pass tonight. If I had three people that agree with me, what I'd be saying is, what day can we meet? You know, can we meet Friday? Can we meet Saturday? Can we get this redone and meet again before June 30th, tomorrow? You know, what, seriously, I mean, but I know that's not going to happen, but that's my belief. My belief is that the reason the Democratic legislators just did what they did is because they've been bought and paid for by the public employee unions. They need to get paid, and they are unwilling to oppose their owners. And therefore, what they've done is hocus pocus that's just going to kick the can down the road. That's why. And because it is the public employee unions who have created that problem and don't allow me to fire the worst of them, I am going to lay most of the burden of this problem on them, to the extent that I have one vote to do that with. So I don't want to use reserves because I don't believe we're going to get that $4 billion. And when you say that money has to be given to us by law, laws will be broken.
look, judges are going to intervene, constitutional crises are going to occur. We are so deep in it that there is no revenue source. We're either going to be breaking contracts or breaking obligations to schools, breaking obligations to taxpayers. There is not going to be an elegant end to this unless a new .com era arises, which I don't see happening. So I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not disagreeing with you. I would send you back to just switch it from, don't use the reserves, that whole $7 million bucks, you can just take it all from salaries and benefits. That would be my recommendation, but I'm not going to bother moving it because I don't think I'm in the sector.
How much of the reserves are you actually using? I mean,
You go back to that sheet that we all agreed on March the 23rd. That shows yeah, it's page 9, and what it shows is we will hit Fund 17, 761,000, Fund 20, 580, Fund 40 for 300,000. That's it as far as the special funds go.
That's not reserved.
but percentage-wise, we're at a certain reserve right now.
3%.
Are we higher than 3%?
We will be when all is said and done. We have to.
3.03.
Right now, for 10-11, yes, we're above 3%. But the financial picture you saw tonight was what you'll see in reality a year from tonight. We have to finish with 3%. And we have gone to that level to back up everything else so that we can be there. Because I do not want to be a Richmond, an Oakland, a Vallejo, a Calexico, and some of the others that Susan in the past life has audited. They're now broke and have to need student loan, state loans. Want to find out what that's like? You go to Compton or Lawndale or one of those.
See, and I like what the city of Costa Mesa did, which was actually make some significant cuts, and I think they're in a boat where they're not really going to hurt services. People are in an uproar, and they actually added a few $100,000 to their reserves. So that 3% may be the legal level that you want, but it isn't necessarily the ideal level to be at, especially when we're coming into worse times. So,
And within 45 days, we may be making several million more cuts than we are today, or we may have several $1 million more money. So the budget's a living, breathing document. I will acknowledge the hard work of the staff that has gotten us to today and where the budget is, where we predict us to be, knowing full well, because for the last, 4 or 5 years, all we've done is talk about how much we're cutting here, what we're saving there, what we're doing there. It's a roller coaster. We're up and down, we're up and down. It's a continuum, and we've managed to stay solvent so far, keep reserves, and not have to borrow a whole lot of money.
Do you want the county office perspective on this? She sat here for almost 4 hours.
I'm happy to hear it if you would like to give it.
I think her input's valuable.
I mean, at the end of the day, the budget's going to pass here, and you know, but yeah, no.
Good evening. I think at this point, since we don't have a state budget, the best thing that you can do is probably pass the budget that you do have, present it to you tonight. Generally speaking, I agree that having the best, keeping your reserves as high as possible in these uncertain times is a prudent thing to do. Having reserves above the 3% level is advisable because you may be facing additional cuts later this year if the state passes the budget that they're talking about. However, it's also unrealistic, in my opinion, to adopt reductions as a placeholder, higher reductions as a placeholder that you have not negotiated at this time and may not be able to negotiate. So I think at this time the most prudent thing to do would be to adopt what you have, and then once the state has adopted a budget and you actually know what's in that budget to proceed with your negotiations, with your bargaining units, and try to keep, I don't like to give negotiations advice because that's certainly not the role of the county office. That's between the district and its bargaining units. But generally speaking, try to keep your agreements flexible so that it be flexible for both parties, so that if the situation changes and the money goes up or the money goes down, the agreements can be flexible and change with that situation. The only other thing that I would add is to reiterate what Dr. Cardinale said tonight. The budget has been built on somewhat optimistic assumptions, and that's not a criticism at all of the district. Those are the assumptions that have been given to districts to build their budgets on, the cost of living adjustments for the future years. And we really don't know if those cost of living adjustments are going to be funded or not. So continue to act prudently as you have done as a board. And I know this has been an extremely difficult few years, and I commend you all for what you've all done. It's been very difficult, and you've had to suffer through difficult budget reductions, and your employees have had to suffer. And I know you've done your best to keep programs intact and to work with your employees, and I commend you for doing that and for continuing to do that.
I have a question. If the budget is likely to be changed, which we've all concurred that it is, what's the difference as to whether or not we pass a budget that has a 7% salary reduction that we probably can't successfully negotiate, or a 3% that we probably can't successfully negotiate? Unrealistic expectations versus, or we've already got an unrealistic revenue expectation. I mean, because from my perspective, all I'm saying to all parties involved is, this is what I would wish were our board's vision for what's the best thing we can do under these circumstances. Why not do that?
I can't tell the board what it
No,
I'm not
I'm
going to tell the board what it can or
Yeah.
cannot do, of course. I will say that when the county office looks at a budget, which is their charge, and I can't say that the county office would disapprove a budget because of that. But one of the things they're going to look at is the reasonableness of assumptions that a district has put into the budget. For example, we're going to look at your enrollment projections.
Right.
And we're going to look at what your enrollment has been over the past 3 or 4 years. And if all of a sudden you built 1,000 additional students into your budget next year, we're going to say, why? Where are those students coming from? So it would be the same kind of thing with a salary decrease. We'd say, well, where are you in the negotiation process? That's the best answer I can. That's the best answer I can give.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Carly.
Okay, now, again, here we are, ready to approve a proposed budget, the adoption of it for all funds, that includes Sandale and Tri-State, as a reminder. I believe we have a motion and a second. Any more comments, discussion items? All in favor of approving the 2011-12 proposed budget as it stands at this moment today on June 28th? Aye. Any opposed?
With gratitude for the hard work and the respect for the intellect behind it, I'm voting no.
4-1 on that motion. Item 2C has to do with a resolution to establish temporary interfund transfers of special or restricted fund monies to the general fund in 2011-12. These were also, what they talked about? No, it's just that. It's a resolution to allow those temporary transfers. I'd entertain a motion to adopt resolution 11-12-02.
I so move.
Is there a second? been moved in second. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That one carries 5-0. 2D, there we go. Has to do with our Laptops for Learning program. We're going to switch gears, but we're still talking money. And it's the master lease purchase agreement for, and it's got lots of numbers behind it, with our leasing overseer. That will be effective July 5th.
And the interest is?
0% interest. Helps the parents buy a computer over 3 years at 0% interest. I would entertain a motion to approve the master lease purchase agreement number EO 6113218 as lease schedule number 1 between Fullerton School District and CSI.
I so moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and second to approve the lease purchase agreement. And any further discussion?
I'm going to oppose. I'm just not convinced that the program is achieving sufficient results to justify the expense and the burden on parents. That's all I
Okay. Anyone else would like to make a comment in regards to this agreement?
I had a couple of questions. I, again, have always opposed the leases because I feel like our district should not be in the leasing business because we're taking on the burden of having to come through with funds if in fact they don't come through it, although we have done a much better job in recouping funds for these. I completely understand that. We have 350 leases. From that, as we approved the waivers, it was my understanding that Hermosa and Nicholas were not up for any new computers. They were using their old computers. But in looking at where these leases are coming from, Hermosa and Nicholas are included. One of the reasons could be because people actually want to purchase their computer. One of the questions I have with that is, if they want to purchase their computer, and if anyone wants to purchase a computer to upgrade, or because some of these were probably upgrades for Fissler, because there's a lot in Fissler here, we are again leasing these computers to these individuals as a kind of a luxury. I see it. If they have a computer, it may be a couple of years old or a few years old. Why can't they just buy it, or is it? Do we have to have a lease agreement in order to work on the computers, or in order to have software on the computers? I don't understand why we are.
Every year in the summer, the computers are reimaged. They're brought up, correct me if I say this wrong, they are brought up to the current standard, so that if I move into a classroom today and you've had your computer for 2 years, and I buy mine, yours will be upgraded to where mine is. And the way that Apple has negotiated these things, in order for a computer to be reimaged without a cost, it has to be from the district. And therefore, even if a parent pays the full amount for a computer on day 1 before the child takes that out of the box, it's considered a lease, so that that family can get the new programs and the updates.
Some parents will pay up front, and some will take 3 years to pay.
But the district owns the computer until the lease is over.
So, okay, I'm in my 5th year because I'm at Fissler and I started in the 2nd grade. That computer is no longer under lease.
As long as they're using it in the school, the district owns it.
So even though I've paid it off, it's still the district's?
Yes, because then
Because you could have paid it off day 1 before you took it out of the box.
As
Because
long
then
as
we
it's
have
in our
control.
program, it's considered our property.
So could I go buy it from Apple myself and then?
No, because you wouldn't get all the updates, you wouldn't get the in-service, you wouldn't get all the.
I just did that, and this is a far superior deal.
It actually makes
It's a
sense
great
because
program.
if an individual owned it, we would have legal issues if they wanted to put something on it or not have something on it. If I believed in the program, I would back this scenario.
So the ones that are going to the Technology Foundation, would those be?
We don't have any.
That's the FTS.
I understand, but we don't own them, we just
Right.
help families.
And so those that you guys are purchasing, or that the Technology Foundation is purchasing.
Technology Foundation is purchasing them. The family asks for something.
We would donate the funds.
Money to them, we don't touch buying anything.
They haven't bought it. This district has. But the funds come from any sources we take.
Again, year after year, I do believe in technology in the classroom. I believe in integrating technology into our curriculum. I believe in bringing in as many whiteboards as we can to our classrooms, bringing in iPods, anything we can to engage our students. I truly, truly don't like being in the leasing business, so for that purpose, I am not going to approve this. But thank you for the information. That helps me understand this a little bit.
Okay, for the 7th year, we are about to approve a lease purchase agreement with Apple and CSI Leasing. It's been moved and seconded to approve this purchase agreement. Any further comments or discussions on item 2D? Hearing none, all in favor of approving item 2D, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-2. And 2E has to do with a resolution to reduce an identified classified position effective July 1. It's resolution 1011-26.
Before we vote on this, before we move it, Mr. Douglas, we're not taking this off the table.
No.
I seconded it.
Moved and second to reduce the number of months of a classified position. Any further discussion about this change? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting resolution 1011-26, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. And now, I believe we're at the end of our agenda. And at this point, we always ask for anyone at the board table that would like to have any items discussed added to the future agendas.
I would like the district to consider sending home laptops in schools where students have the 8-hour program.
I'm sure our superintendent will take that on advice. Okay, any other items? Otherwise, I think our minds are as numb as our cushion.